My name is Zoya Robertson, though most people just call me Zoya or sometimes Zoe. 23 years old, living in Connecticut, working at a coffee shop while trying to finish my degree at the local community college. Sounds ordinary, right? Like a million other young women trying to figure out life, trying to make ends meet, trying to find their place in the world. But here's the thing about ordinary. It's only ordinary until you look closer. Until you peel back the layers and see what's really underneath. And underneath my ordinary life, there's a story that's anything but. I grew up in what most people would call a comfortable family. Not wealthy, but comfortable. Upper middle class, I suppose. My father, Richard Robertson, worked as an accountant for a mid-sized firm in Hartford. My mother, Patricia Robertson, was a real estate agent, the kind who always had her phone glued to her ear, always closing deals, always networking. We lived in a nice house in a nice neighborhood in West Hartford, white picket fence and all that. From the outside, we looked perfect. But inside there was really only room for one person in that house, and it wasn't me. Scarlett Robertson, my sister. 6 years older than me, and from the moment I could form memories, she was the sun that our entire family orbited around. Not metaphorically. I mean literally. Every single thing in that house revolved around Scarlett. Let me paint you a picture of my childhood home. When you walked through the front door, the first thing you saw was a gallery wall. Not a gallery of family photos. A gallery of Scarlett. Scarlett at age 3 in her ballet recital. Scarlett at age 7 holding her first tennis trophy. Scarlett at age 10 with her science fair ribbon. Scarlett at age 13 in her junior high graduation gown. The wall went on like that, chronicling every achievement, every milestone, every smile. There was exactly one photo of me on that wall. One, tucked in the corner, barely visible behind the coat rack. Me as a baby, red-faced and crying. I used to wonder if that was intentional. If maybe my mother put it there as some kind of statement. This is Zoya, and she's been causing problems since day one. The living room was more of the same. Scarlett's piano certificates framed above the fireplace. Scarlett's academic awards lined up on the mantel. Scarlett's tennis trophies filling an entire cabinet. My mother would dust these items religiously, carefully, lovingly, like they were priceless artifacts in a museum. My report cards, those got a glance and a "that's nice, dear" before being stuffed in a drawer. I don't remember when I first realized I was invisible in my own family. I think it happened so gradually that by the time I understood what was happening, I'd already accepted it as normal. This is just how things are. Scarlett is the important one. You are not. I wore Scarlett's hand-me-downs exclusively until I was 16. Not because we couldn't afford new clothes for me, but because Scarlett barely wore these, and it would be wasteful not to use them, and you should be grateful to have such nice things. Never mind that the styles were outdated by the time they got to me. Never mind that nothing ever quite fit right because Scarlett was taller and thinner. Never mind that I wanted just once to pick out something that was mine and only mine. I played with Scarlett's old toys. I used Scarlett's old laptop when she upgraded. I slept in Scarlett's old bedroom when she left for college because she wanted the bigger room for when she came home for visits. I didn't even get to redecorate. Leave it as it is, my mother said. Scarlett might want things the way she left them. But you know what? I didn't complain. I learned early that complaining got me nowhere. It just made my mother sigh with disappointment and my father retreat behind his newspaper. So I kept quiet. I made myself small. I learned to exist in the spaces between Scarlett's achievements, in the moments when my parents weren't actively celebrating her. School was my escape, not because I loved learning particularly, though I didn't mind it, but because at school, I wasn't Scarlett's little sister. I was just Zoya. I had friends who didn't know anything about my perfect sister at Harvard, teachers who judged me on my own work, not in comparison to whoever came before. For 7 hours a day, I could breathe. But then I'd come home, and the weight would settle back on my chest. The weight of being less than, being secondary, being the afterthought. High school came and went in a blur. I got decent grades. Not exceptional, like Scarlett's straight A's, but decent. I played soccer for 2 years before quietly quitting when my parents missed every single game. I joined the art club and discovered I actually enjoyed painting, but when I mentioned it at dinner, my mother said "that's nice," without looking up from her phone, where she was texting Scarlett about her latest internship interview. Scarlett had already moved out by the time I hit my teens. She'd gone off to Harvard on a partial academic scholarship. Partial, because my parents covered the rest. Gladly, proudly, "Our daughter goes to Harvard," they'd tell anyone who would listen. Coworkers, neighbors, random people at the grocery store, they practically wore it like a badge of honor. I thought maybe, just maybe, with Scarlett gone, my parents would notice me more. That I might finally get some of that attention I'd been craving my whole life. I was wrong. If anything, Scarlett's absence made her presence even stronger. Phone calls every Sunday where my parents would huddle around the speaker, hanging on her every word about her classes, her friends, her internships. Care packages sent weekly, filled with her favorite snacks and supplies. Visits planned months in advance, where my parents would deep clean the house and stock the fridge with all of Scarlett's preferred foods. "How was your week, Zoya?" My mother would ask absently, if she asked at all, before immediately pivoting to, "Oh, did I tell you what Scarlett said about her economics professor?" I learned to live with it. What choice did I have? This was my family. This was my normal. Then came my junior year of high school, the year everything started to crystallize for me. The year I started to understand just how deep the inequality ran. It was a regular Sunday afternoon. I was 17, sitting at the kitchen table working on college applications, when Scarlett burst through the front door. She was home for Thanksgiving break, and she was practically glowing with excitement. "Mom, Dad," she called out, her voice bright and breathless. They came running, literally running. My father from his study, my mother from the garden. Both of them with expressions of eager anticipation, like Scarlett was about to announce she'd won the Nobel Prize. "What is it, sweetheart?" My mother asked, reaching out to grasp Scarlett's hands. Scarlett's smile was so wide I thought her face might split. "I'm getting married?" The room exploded. My mother burst into tears, pulling Scarlett into a tight embrace. My father let out a whoop of joy and joined the hug. They rocked back and forth, this tight little unit of celebration, while I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop still open to a half-finished essay. Nobody looked at me. Nobody invited me into the celebration. I might as well have been a piece of furniture. After what felt like an eternity, Scarlett finally pulled away from our parents and turned to me. Her eyes were shining with happy tears. "Zoya, can you believe it? Marcus proposed last night." Marcus Hale, the boyfriend we'd met exactly twice. A law student at Harvard, 3 years older than Scarlett. Came from old Boston money. Talked about tax law and trusts and estate planning at the dinner table in a way that made my eyes glaze over. "Congratulations," I said, forcing my face into what I hoped looked like a genuine smile. "That's really exciting." Scarlett crossed the kitchen and pulled me into a hug. She smelled like expensive perfume and ambition. "And you'll be my maid of honor, right? I can't imagine anyone else standing beside me on my big day." Maid of honor. Translation: unpaid labor coordinator. Dress wrangler. Emotional support dispenser. I'd seen enough movies to know what the role entailed. "Of course," I heard myself say. "I'd love to." The lie tasted bitter on my tongue, but I swallowed it down because that's what I did. That's what I'd always done. Over the next few months, the wedding consumed our household. It was all anyone talked about. Wedding venues, wedding themes, wedding guest lists. My mother took Scarlett to look at dresses at boutiques in Boston and New York. My father started researching wedding vendors. Every dinner conversation was wedding this, wedding that. I was included in exactly none of these planning sessions, unless it was to ask me to do something. "Zoya, can you research photographers and send me a list?" "Zoya, can you put together invitation samples?" "Zoya, can you call these vendors and check their availability?" But when it came to actual decisions, I wasn't consulted. I was just the helper. One evening, about 4 months before the wedding, I was in my room studying for a history exam when I heard voices drifting up from downstairs. My parents were in the kitchen and they thought I couldn't hear them, but our house had thin walls and I'd learned years ago how to be very, very quiet. "We'll have to take out a loan," my father was saying, his voice strained in a way I'd never heard before. "The venue alone is $40,000. Add in catering, photography, flowers, the band she wants." "I know," my mother replied, and she sounded stressed too. "But Richard, it's Scarlett's wedding. We can't let her down. This is the most important day of her life. Patricia, we're talking about $250,000, maybe more." A long pause, then my mother's voice firm and decided. "Then we take out the loan, we'll manage, we always do. Scarlett deserves to have the wedding of her dreams." I sat frozen on my bed, my history textbook forgotten in my lap. $250,000, for one day, one single day. I thought about my college fund. The one my parents had mentioned vaguely when I was younger, the one that was supposed to help me with school. I'd never asked how much was in it. I just assumed there was something, some amount that would at least make a dent in tuition. I should have asked. But I didn't, because I was afraid of the answer. The wedding happened the following June, right after I graduated from high school. It was held at an oceanfront resort in Cape Cod, and it was exactly as lavish as you'd imagine a $250,000 wedding to be. 300 guests, a 12-piece orchestra, an open bar with a professional mixologist, a 5-course dinner, a designer wedding cake that cost more than my first car would years later. Fireworks at midnight. Scarlett looked beautiful. Like a princess, like royalty, like every bride's magazine cover come to life. Her dress alone cost $18,000. I knew because I overheard my mother telling her friend on the phone, her voice filled with pride. I wore the bridesmaid dress Scarlett had chosen. Powder blue, strapless, with a tulle skirt that made me look like a cupcake. It cost $600, which I had to pay for myself, along with the shoes, the jewelry, the hair and makeup appointment. My mother paid for all of that for Scarlett's other bridesmaids, but she told me, your family, you should want to contribute. I spent the entire wedding smiling until my face hurt, hurting bridesmaids, holding Scarlett's dress when she needed to use the bathroom, fetching drinks, running interference with difficult relatives, being wherever I was needed, whenever I was needed. Not once did anyone ask if I was having a good time. Not once did anyone offer me a break. I was staff, not a guest, and everyone treated me accordingly. At one point, late in the evening, I found myself standing alone on the resort balcony, looking out at the dark ocean. My feet ached in the too tight shoes. My face hurt from smiling. My heart felt like a hollow drum in my chest. "There you are," Scarlett's voice came from behind me. She swept onto the balcony in her gorgeous dress, still somehow looking fresh and radiant even after hours of celebration. "I've been looking everywhere for you. Just needed some air," I said, turning to face her. She linked her arm through mine, leaning her head on my shoulder. "Thank you," she said softly. "For everything. You've been amazing today. I couldn't have done this without you." For a moment, just a brief moment, I let myself feel the warmth of those words. Let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, Scarlett saw me, really saw me. Then she pulled back, her expression turning excited. "Oh, I almost forgot to tell you. Marcus and I have decided I'm going to be a full-time housewife." I blinked. "What?" "I know, right? It's so retro, but Marcus makes more than enough for both of us, and honestly, after all the stress of school and internships, I'm ready to just relax, focus on making a home, maybe take up pottery or something." She laughed, light and carefree. "Isn't that great?" I thought about the $250,000 loan my parents had taken out for her Harvard education, for this wedding, for everything. "Yeah," I said, my voice flat. "That's great." She didn't notice my tone. She just squeezed my arm and drifted back toward the party, toward her new husband, toward her perfect life. I stayed on that balcony a while longer, listening to the waves crash against the shore, and I felt something crack open inside my chest. Not break, not yet, just crack, like a dam with a tiny fissure that would, inevitably, eventually give way. The honeymoon lasted 2 weeks. Bora Bora, all expenses paid by Marcus's family. When Scarlett and Marcus returned, they came for Sunday dinner at our parents' house, tanned and glowing and full of stories about overwater bungalows and private beaches. "We have news," Scarlett announced halfway through dessert, exchanging a meaningful look with Marcus. My mother clasped her hands together, her face lighting up. "You're pregnant," Scarlett laughed. "Not yet, but we're going to start trying soon, which is why." She paused dramatically. "We need to buy a house." "Real house with room for a family." "That's wonderful," my father exclaimed. "The thing is," Marcus cut in, his voice smooth and practiced, "we've found the perfect place. Colonial style, 5 bedrooms, beautiful yard in a great school district. But with our student loans and getting established, the down payment is just a bit out of reach." I watched my parents' faces. Watched the way they looked at each other, having an entire conversation without words. The same conversation they'd had about the wedding loan. "How much do you need?" my father asked. $200,000, Marcus said without hesitation. "It's a lot, I know, but it's an investment the house will appreciate, and we'd pay you back, of course, over time." "Of course we'll help," my mother said immediately. "Family helps family, that's what we do." I set down my fork carefully, very carefully. "Mom, Dad, you just took out a loan for the wedding." They looked at me like they'd forgotten I was there. "Zoya," my mother said, her voice taking on that warning tone, "this isn't the time." "When is the time?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. "You're already in debt. How are you going to?" "We'll figure it out," my father interrupted, his tone firm. "This is what parents do. We help our children succeed." Children, plural. Except only one child ever seemed to benefit from their help. I pushed back from the table, mumbled an excuse about homework, and left the room. Behind me, I heard Scarlett say something about me being stressed about college applications, and everyone laughed sympathetically. Nobody followed me upstairs. Nobody checked to see if I was okay. That night, I finally worked up the courage to ask my parents about my college fund. I found them in the living room, my mother browsing real estate listings on her laptop, probably looking for houses for Scarlett. My father was reading a book on investment properties. Mom, Dad. My voice came out smaller than I intended. Can we talk? Of course, honey, my mother said without looking up from her screen. I sat down on the edge of the armchair, perched like I might need to flee at any moment. I've been looking at colleges. I'm applying to some state schools and a few private colleges with good scholarship programs. I was wondering. I swallowed hard. How much is in my college fund? Finally, my mother looked up. She and my father exchanged another one of those loaded glances. Well, my father started, closing his book. The thing is, Zoya, we've had some unexpected expenses lately. My stomach dropped. With Scarlett's wedding and now helping with the house. My mother's voice was gentle, but there was steel underneath. We can contribute about half of what we'd originally planned. How much is half? I asked, even though I was terrified of the answer. 20,000, my father said. Split over 4 years, that's 5,000 a year. That should cover a good portion of community college, and you can work part-time for the rest. 20,000 for 4 years of college. Meanwhile, Scarlett got $250,000 for one day and $200,000 for a house she'd live in with her wealthy husband. Community college? I repeated. But I was thinking maybe I could apply to. Community college is a smart choice, my mother interrupted. It's practical, affordable, lots of successful people start there. Scarlett went to Harvard, I said before I could stop myself. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. Scarlett had scholarships, my father said, his voice tight, and she was an exceptional student. You're doing fine, Zoya, but you're not Harvard material. Community college is more realistic. Those words hit me like a physical blow, not Harvard material. Translation, not good enough, not like Scarlett. Okay, I whispered. Thank you for the help. I walked out of that room, climbed the stairs to my bedroom, closed the door, and for the first time in years, I let myself cry. Not quiet, hidden tears. Real sobs that shook my whole body and left my face blotchy and swollen. Because I finally understood with complete clarity exactly where I stood in this family. I wasn't a daughter. I wasn't a sister. I was an afterthought, a supporting character in Scarlett's story, and I had no idea how to change that. But what I didn't know then, what I couldn't have known, was that things were about to get so much worse before they got better. The summer after high school graduation was supposed to be fun. That's what everyone said. Enjoy your freedom before college, take a road trip, make memories. Instead, I spent it working 35 hours a week at a local coffee shop called The Daily Grind, saving every penny I could for the textbooks and supplies my parents' measly contribution wouldn't cover. I also spent it being my sister's unpaid assistant. Scarlett was 4 months pregnant by then, with twins, no less. The ultrasound had revealed 2 little heartbeats, and my parents had reacted like she just announced she was carrying the second coming of Christ. Twins, my father kept saying, shaking his head in wonder. Can you believe it? Our Scarlett is having twins. My mother immediately went into overdrive, buying pregnancy books, researching the best cribs, creating Pinterest boards for nursery themes. She took Scarlett to every single OB appointment, went with her to every baby store, threw her an elaborate baby shower that cost more than my car insurance for the year. Me? I was invited to help set up for the baby shower, clean up after the baby shower, and contribute $20 to the group gift. Which, for someone making $8.50 an hour, was not insignificant, but I smiled and contributed and helped because that's what I did. Scarlett and Marcus moved into their new house in August, a beautiful colonial in the Riverside neighborhood, just 15 minutes from my parents' place. 5 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, a finished basement, and a yard that looked like something out of a magazine. My parents helped them move in. I helped them move in. We spent an entire weekend hauling boxes and assembling furniture while Scarlett, visibly pregnant and unable to do physical labor, directed from a chair and drank lemonade. A little to the left, she'd say. No, that's too far, back to the right. Perfect. Marcus was there in body but clearly not in spirit, spending most of the time on phone calls about work, stepping outside whenever his phone rang. Which was often. On Sunday evening, after everything was unpacked and arranged, Scarlett ordered pizza for everyone. We sat in her beautiful new dining room, eating off paper plates because the dishes weren't unpacked yet, and my mother sighed contentedly. "This is so wonderful," she said, looking around at the space. "Our family is growing. Soon there will be babies in this house. Scarlett, you and Marcus are starting such a beautiful life together." Scarlett beamed. Marcus nodded absently, checking his phone. My father raised his soda can in a toast. "To Scarlett and Marcus, may your home be filled with love and laughter." We all clinked our drinks together. Nobody toasted to me, starting college in 3 weeks. Nobody asked if I was excited or nervous or scared. Nobody seemed to remember that I was about to begin a major new chapter of my life. I was invisible again. Or maybe I'd never stopped being invisible, and I just fooled myself into thinking otherwise for a brief moment. Community college was fine. Not great, not terrible. Just fine. Northern Connecticut Community College, or NCCC as everyone called it. The campus was small, the buildings were outdated, and most of my classmates were either right out of high school like me or adults coming back to finish degrees they'd started years ago. I declared a major in business administration because it seemed practical and I genuinely didn't know what else to do. My classes were easy enough, basic requirements, intro courses, nothing too challenging. I made a few casual friends, the kind you smile at in the hallway and study with occasionally, but don't really hang out with outside of school. My real life was work. I picked up more shifts at the daily grind, working 5 or 6 days a week, usually opening shifts from 6 a.m. to noon, then rushing to campus for afternoon classes. By evening, I was exhausted, barely able to keep my eyes open long enough to do homework before collapsing into bed. It wasn't the college experience I'd imagined. No late-night study sessions in a dorm, no cafeteria meals with friends, no campus activities or clubs, just work, class, homework, sleep, repeat. But I told myself it was fine. Lots of people had to work through college. I wasn't special. I just needed to put my head down and get through it. Then, in October of my freshman year, Scarlett had twins. Oliver and Emma Robertson Hale were born at 6:47 and 6:49 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. 6 pounds 3 ounces and 5 pounds 14 ounces respectively. Healthy, perfect, beautiful. My parents called me at 7 a.m. while I was opening the coffee shop to tell me the news. My mother was crying happy tears. My father's voice was thick with emotion. "You're an aunt, Zoya. Come to the hospital as soon as you can." I did after my shift ended. I showed up at Hartford Hospital still wearing my work uniform, smelling like espresso and steamed milk, and I followed the signs to the maternity ward. The room was full of people. My parents, Marcus's parents, a few aunts and uncles, all crowded around Scarlett's bed where she held 2 tiny bundles wrapped in hospital blankets. She looked exhausted but radiant, her hair swept up in a messy bun, her face makeup-free and glowing. "Zoya." She called when she saw me. "Come meet your nephew and niece." I approached carefully, weaving between relatives until I stood next to the bed. Scarlett shifted one of the babies toward me. "This is Oliver. Want to hold him?" I'd never held a baby before, but I nodded and she transferred the tiny, warm weight into my arms. Oliver's face was scrunched up, his tiny hands curled into fists. He was impossibly small, impossibly fragile. "Hi, Oliver," I whispered. "I'm your Aunt Zoya." Something shifted in my chest. A softening. Despite everything, despite all the resentment and hurt I carried toward my sister and parents, I couldn't help but feel something for this tiny person. He hadn't asked to be born into this family. He was innocent in all of this. "And this is Emma," Scarlett said, nodding toward the other baby in her arms. "She's the quiet one. Oliver's already proving to be dramatic." I smiled despite myself. He comes by it honestly. Scarlett laughed, not catching the subtle dig, or maybe she did and chose to ignore it. For a moment, standing there with my nephew in my arms, surrounded by family all cooing over these new additions, I felt like maybe I belonged. Maybe this was a fresh start. Maybe things could be different. That feeling lasted approximately 3 weeks. The first time it happened, I thought it was a one-time thing, a special circumstance, a favor between sisters. It was a Saturday morning, mid-November. I just finished a brutal week of midterm exams and was looking forward to sleeping in for once, maybe until the decadent hour of 9 a.m. My phone rang at 7:30. I groaned, fumbling for it on my nightstand, squinting at the screen. "Scarlett." "Hello?" My voice was rough with sleep. "Zoya, thank God you answered." Scarlett sounded frazzled, which was unusual. Scarlett was never frazzled. "I need a huge favor. Are you busy today?" I looked at my ceiling, my beautiful, peaceful ceiling. "Not really, why? Can you come over and watch the twins for a few hours? Marcus and I haven't had a moment to ourselves since they were born, and we really need a break. Please, you'd be saving my life." I should have said no. I should have said I had plans, had studying to do, needed rest. but the truth was I didn't have plans, and Scarlett sounded genuinely desperate, and I'd always been terrible at saying no to my family. Okay, I heard myself say. What time? As soon as possible. Like now. Please, Zoe, I'm literally begging you, I sighed. Fine, give me 30 minutes. You're the best, thank you. I dragged myself out of bed, threw on jeans and a sweatshirt, and made the drive to Scarlett's house. When I arrived, she met me at the door already wearing her coat, her purse over her shoulder. You're a lifesaver, she said, giving me a quick hug. They just ate, so they should be good for a few hours. Diapers are upstairs, bottles in the fridge if they get hungry. We'll be back by 2. Wait, what do I? But she was already heading to her car, where Marcus was waiting in the driver's seat. They pulled out of the driveway before I could finish my question. I stood in the foyer of my sister's house, listening to the sound of crying starting up from the nursery upstairs, and I felt the first stirring of real anger. That first time, it was chaos. I had no idea what I was doing. The twins cried in shifts. When I got Oliver calmed down, Emma would start up. When I got Emma settled, Oliver would need a diaper change. I spent 4.5 hours in a constant state of motion, bouncing babies, changing diapers, warming bottles, trying to remember if the cry meant hungry or tired or uncomfortable. When Scarlett and Marcus finally returned at 2:30, 30 minutes late, I was sitting on the couch with both twins finally, mercifully asleep in my arms, and I was pretty sure I was about to pass out from exhaustion. How did it go? Scarlett asked brightly, setting down shopping bags, multiple shopping bags. Fine, I managed. They're asleep. Perfect. Marcus, can you take them upstairs? She turned to me. Thank you so much, Zoe. You're amazing with them. I waited for her to offer to pay me. Or at least to offer gas money. But she just walked me to the door, gave me another quick hug, and said, same time next week? What? Well, Marcus and I really need this. A few hours every week to reconnect, keep our marriage strong. And the babies love you, it's perfect. That should have been my moment to set boundaries. To say no, I have my own life, my own responsibilities. But I was so tired, and Scarlett was looking at me with such hopeful eyes, and I just didn't have it in me to fight. Sure, I said. Same time next week. And just like that, I became an unpaid babysitter every single weekend. It started as Saturday mornings. Just a few hours, Scarlett said, just while they ran errands or had brunch or went to the gym. But then it expanded. Saturday mornings and Sunday afternoons. Then Friday evenings too, because they had dinner plans. Then the occasional weeknight, because Scarlett needed to run to Target or go to a doctor's appointment or meet a friend for coffee. Every time, she'd call with that same slightly frantic tone. Zoya, I'm so sorry to ask, but can you possibly watch the twins? Just for a little bit. And every time, I'd say yes. I stopped picking up extra shifts at work because I never knew when Scarlett would need me. My grades started slipping because I was too exhausted to focus on homework. My non-existent social life became even more non-existent because I spent every weekend with Oliver and Emma instead of with people my own age. Don't get me wrong, I loved my nephew and niece. They were sweet kids, and it wasn't their fault their mother was using me as free childcare. But watching them stopped being an occasional favor and started being an expected obligation. The worst part? My parents not only knew about it, they actively encouraged it. It's so wonderful how you help your sister, my mother would say. Family is everything, Zoya. Scarlett is lucky to have you. You're being a good aunt, my father would add. The twins need you. But nobody ever asked if I was okay, if I was tired, if I needed a break, if I had plans of my own that were being constantly disrupted. Nobody asked because nobody cared. One Saturday in February, I'd finally had enough. Scarlett had called at the last minute as usual to ask if I could watch the twins because she and Marcus had concert tickets. I'd said yes, as usual, because I was a doormat who apparently didn't know how to set boundaries. But when I showed up at their house, exhausted from a week of midterms, running on about 4 hours of sleep, I made a decision. I was going to talk to Scarlett. I was going to tell her I couldn't keep doing this. I needed my weekends back. I found her upstairs getting ready, wearing a designer dress I knew cost more than my monthly income. Scarlett, I started, trying to keep my voice steady, we need to talk. Make it quick, babe, Marcus is waiting in the car. She was applying lipstick, not looking at me. I can't keep babysitting every weekend. I have school and work and I need time for Zoya. She turned to face me, and her expression was impatient. I don't have time for this right now. Marcus spent a fortune on these tickets. The twins are fed and changed. We'll be back by midnight. That's 7 hours, Scarlett. 7 hours on a Saturday night when I could. Could what? Go out partying? You're in community college, Zoya, not real college. It's not like you have some crazy social life I'm interrupting. She grabbed her purse. Look, I appreciate your help, I really do. But I'm the one with actual responsibilities. I have 2 children, you have. What? Coffee shop shifts and basic classes? This is what aunts do, they help. She swept past me and down the stairs before I could respond. I heard the front door close. Heard Marcus's car pull out of the driveway. I stood in the hallway, shaking with anger and hurt, and I realized something important. Scarlett didn't see me as her sister. She saw me as staff. Free, convenient, always available staff. Downstairs, one of the twins started crying. I took a deep breath, wiped my eyes, and went to do my job. Things continued like that for months. Me running myself into the ground between work, school, and babysitting. My family taking and never once giving anything back. I started having fantasies about just leaving. Getting in my car and driving somewhere far away where nobody knew me, where I had no obligations, where I could just be myself instead of Scarlett's free babysitter or my parents' forgettable second daughter. But I didn't leave, because where would I go? I had barely any money saved. No support system outside my family. No plan, so I stayed and I endured and I slowly felt myself disappearing into this life I never wanted. Then came March, and with it came the discovery that changed everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I didn't have class, and for once, I didn't have work either. My manager had actually given me a day off, a rare gift. I'd planned to use it to catch up on sleep, maybe binge-watch something mindless on Netflix, just decompress for a few precious hours. I was home alone. My parents were both at work. The house was quiet in that particular way that only empty houses are, where you can hear the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the clock and nothing else. I'd gone down to the basement looking for an old textbook I thought I'd stored down there. My parents used the basement as a combination storage area and home office, filing cabinets, boxes of old documents, holiday decorations, my dad's rarely used workbench. I was digging through a box labeled school records when I found it. A manila envelope, old and slightly yellowed, tucked between folders of my old report cards and Scarlett's countless academic awards. The envelope had my name on it in my grandmother's handwriting. My grandmother, Caroline Robertson, my dad's mother. She died when I was 16, and I'd loved her fiercely. She was the one person in my family who had always made me feel seen, who remembered my birthday without prompting, who asked me about my interests and actually listened to the answers, who told me I was smart and capable and special, even when nobody else did. I pulled out the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a letter, written in that same familiar handwriting. My dearest Zoya, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and it also means you've gone looking for answers. You were always a curious child, always asking questions. I loved that about you. I'm writing this letter because I know your parents, much as I love them, have a tendency to favor your sister. I've watched it happen your whole life, and it's broken my heart. So I've made sure to do something for you, something that's just yours and can never be taken away. When you turn 21, you'll have access to a trust fund I've set up in your name. $150,000 for your education and your future. Your parents are listed as trustees until you reach that age, but after that, the money is yours alone to use as you see fit. Don't let them tell you otherwise. Don't let them convince you to give it to your sister or use it for something they want. This is your money for your future. I've made sure of that. I believe in you, Zoya Murray. I always have. I wish I could be there to watch you grow into the remarkable woman I know you'll become. All my love, Grandma Caroline. I read the letter 3 times, my hands shaking harder with each pass. $150,000, for me, from my grandmother who'd loved me. I'd turned 21 8 months ago, which meant the money should be mine now, should be accessible. I'd never heard a word about it. My laptop was upstairs. I practically ran up the basement steps, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I opened my laptop, logged into the bank account my parents had helped me set up when I was 16, the one I barely used because I kept my work paychecks in a separate checking account. I navigated to the account summary. Balance, $347.23 that couldn't be right. I clicked through to the transaction history, going back months, then years. There was no sign of any trust fund, no deposits of $150,000, nothing, but wait, there had to be a separate account, right? The trust fund would be its own thing. I called the bank. Sat on hold for 12 minutes listening to tinny music before a representative named Sharon picked up. "Hi," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm calling about a trust fund that should be in my name. A trust set up by my grandmother, Caroline Robertson." Let me look that up for you, Sharon said. I heard typing, then more typing, then a pause that lasted too long. Okay, I'm seeing a trust that was established in 2016 in your name with an initial deposit of $150,000. But Miss Robertson, that account shows a balance of zero. It was closed in 2022. My blood ran cold. Closed? How? Let me see. It looks like the funds were transferred to another account. There's a signature authorization form on file. It appears you authorized the transfer. I never authorized anything. The signature on file is yours, dated March 2022, transferring the full amount to an account belonging to, more typing, Scarlett Robertson Hale. Is that your sister? The room spun. I gripped the edge of my desk to steady myself. Miss Robertson, are you still there? I didn't sign anything, I managed to say. That's not my signature. I never authorized that transfer. I see. Well, if you believe there's been fraud, you'll need to come into a branch and file a report. You may also need to contact the police. I thanked her, ended the call, and sat staring at my laptop screen. They'd stolen from me. My parents had stolen from me. They'd forged my signature and given my money, my grandmother's gift to me to Scarlett. $150,000 that could have covered my entire college education. That could have let me quit the exhausting coffee shop job. That could have given me options, freedom, a future. Gone, handed over to Scarlett, who already had everything. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for my parents to come home. I heard the garage door open, heard them come inside, heard my mother's voice calling, Zoya, are you home? I walked downstairs like I was underwater, moving through a thick, resistant medium. They were in the kitchen, my mother unloading groceries, my father sorting through the mail. There you are, my mother said. Can you help me put these away? I pulled out a chair and sat down heavily. We need to talk. Something in my voice made them both stop and look at me. What's wrong? My father asked. I put the letter from my grandmother on the kitchen table. I found this, in the basement. My mother's face went pale. My father's jaw tightened. Zoya, my mother started, let me explain. Did you steal my trust fund? My voice was surprisingly calm, eerily calm. Did you forge my signature and give my money to Scarlett? Silence. The kind of silence that's louder than any confession. It wasn't stealing, my father finally said. We're your parents. We made a decision for the good of the family. The good of the family, I repeated. Not for my good, for Scarlett's good. Scarlett needed it more, my mother said, and she actually sounded defensive, like she was the wronged party here. She was starting her business. Business? What business? She's a housewife. She was planning to open a lifestyle blog, maybe turn it into a consulting business, my mother snapped. She had real potential for income. And she has 2 children to think about, Zoya, 2 children and a household to run. And I have student loans, and a minimum wage job. And no future because you stole from me? Don't raise your voice to your mother, my father warned. I laughed, actually laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You stole $150,000 from me, forged my signature, and you're worried about me raising my voice? We didn't steal anything, my mother insisted. That money was sitting there and you were doing fine without it. Scarlett needed help getting her life started, and we made an executive decision as your parents. I was 21. You weren't my trustees anymore, that money was mine. And we used it for your sister who needed it more. My mother's voice had gone cold. This is what family does, Zoya, we help each other. Scarlett has responsibilities you can't even imagine. You're young, single, no children. You can work your way through school like millions of other people. But Scarlett? Stop, I shouted. Just stop. Everything is always about Scarlett. Her wedding, her house, her kids, her needs. What about me? What about what I need? What you need, my father said, his voice hard, is to stop being selfish. Your sister has given us grandchildren. She's building a family. She's contributing to the Robertson legacy. You're, what, barely passing community college? Working at a coffee shop? When you've accomplished something worth celebrating, maybe we'll prioritize your needs. The words hit me like physical blows, each one landing with precision in the most vulnerable parts of me. Wow, I whispered. You really think that? You really believe I'm worthless compared to her? We didn't say worthless, my mother said, but her voice was weak, guilty. You didn't have to. I stood up, my legs shaking. I want my money back, all of it. You stole from me and I want it back. My parents exchanged one of their loaded glances. We don't have it, my father said. It's gone. Scarlett used it for her business investments and home improvements. It's spent. Then Scarlett can pay me back. My mother actually laughed, a short, disbelieving laugh. Zoya, be realistic. Scarlett has expenses. She can't just hand over $150,000. Besides, technically, we were within our rights as your parents too. You forged my signature. You can't prove that, my father said quietly. And there it was. The truth laid bare. They'd stolen from me, and they knew it, and they didn't care because they thought I wouldn't fight back. Thought I'd just take it like I took everything else. Get out, my mother said suddenly. If you're going to stand here and accuse your own parents of being criminals, if you can't see that we made the best decision for this family, then I think you should leave. Patricia, my father started. No, Richard, I'm done. Zoya can go cool off in her room and think about how she's acting, and when she's ready to apologize, we can discuss this like adults. I looked at them both. These people who were supposed to love me, protect me, have my back, and I saw strangers. Selfish strangers who valued one daughter and dismissed the other. Fine, I said. I'll go to my room, and I'll think really hard about a lot of things. I walked upstairs, went into my room, and quietly locked the door. Then I pulled out my phone and Googled estate lawyers near me. Harold Finch had a small office in downtown Hartford, in one of those old brick buildings that had probably been there since the 1800s. The sign on the door said Finch & Associates Estate Planning and Trust Law in faded gold lettering. I'd called first thing the next morning and somehow gotten an appointment for that same afternoon. The secretary said Mr. Finch had a cancellation and could squeeze me in. The waiting room smelled like old paper and lemon furniture polish. The chairs were worn but comfortable. Legal textbooks lined one wall. It felt like stepping back in time. Miss Robertson. A man appeared in the doorway, late 60s, silver hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. I'm Harold Finch, please come in. His office was exactly what you'd expect. Dark wood desk, leather chairs, more bookshelves, a window overlooking the street below. Now, he said once we were both seated, you said on the phone this was about your grandmother's trust? I pulled out the letter and handed it to him. He read it slowly, carefully, then looked up at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Caroline Robertson, I knew her. Not well, but I handled some work for her years ago. She was a sharp woman, didn't suffer fools. That sounds like her. She set up this trust for you? Apparently, but my parents, I had to stop, take a breath. My parents transferred the money to my sister. They forged my signature. Harold's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Tell me everything. So I did. I told him about finding the letter, calling the bank, confronting my parents. About Scarlett and the favoritism and the endless babysitting and every instance of being overlooked and dismissed and used. He listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and steepled his fingers. Miss Robertson, I'm going to be frank with you. What your parents did was illegal. Forging a signature to access and transfer funds from a trust is fraud. It's also theft. Can I get my money back? Possibly. We'd need to prove the signature was forged, which may require handwriting analysis. We'd need to file a claim, possibly both civil and criminal. It would be a lengthy process and expensive. My heart sank. I don't have money for a lengthy legal battle. I assumed as much. He opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out a folder. Which is why I'm going to tell you something interesting. Your grandmother, Caroline Robertson, was more than just a client of mine. She was a friend. And before she died, she asked me to keep copies of certain documents in a secure location. Documents she thought might be important someday. He opened the folder. Inside were papers, lots of them. These are the original trust documents, the signature cards from when the account was established. And he pulled out a specific sheet. This is a letter of instruction Caroline gave me, stating explicitly that the money was for you and you alone, and that if anyone attempted to access it improperly, I was to provide legal assistance. I stared at him. She knew this might happen. Your grandmother loved your parents, but she wasn't blind to their flaws. She saw how they treated you versus your sister. She wanted to make sure you'd be protected. He slid the folder across the desk. Miss Robertson, I'm prepared to take your case pro bono. No charge, it's what Caroline would have wanted. I felt tears prick my eyes. Why would you do that? Because your grandmother once helped my daughter when she was in a difficult situation. She didn't have to, but she did, because that's the kind of person she was. This is me returning the favor. He picked up a pen. Now, let's talk about how we're going to get your money back. Over the next few weeks, Harold worked methodically to build the case. He subpoenaed records from the bank, got copies of the signature authorization form, hired a handwriting expert who confirmed what we already knew, the signature wasn't mine. He drafted legal documents, sent official letters to my parents demanding repayment, filed preliminary paperwork for a civil lawsuit. My parents, predictably, lawyered up. They hired someone from Marcus's firm, a slick guy named Brad who wore expensive suits and smiled like a shark. But Harold had one advantage. He was absolutely, provably right. The evidence was clear. My signature had been forged. The money had been taken illegally. During this time, I stopped going to my parents' house. I stopped answering Scarlett's calls asking me to babysit. I stopped being available, compliant, and convenient. My mother left me voicemails that progressed from angry to hurt to threatening. "You're tearing this family apart. Your sister is devastated that you've abandoned her children. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof because of your selfishness." Scarlett texted me paragraphs about how hurt she was, how she couldn't believe I'd accuse mom and dad of being criminals, how she'd used that money to invest in her future and couldn't possibly pay it back right now, how I was being unreasonable and vindictive. I deleted every message without reading past the first line, because here's the thing I'd finally learned. Their guilt trips only worked if I let them. Their manipulation only had power if I believed their version of reality instead of my own, and I was done believing them. The settlement came in early June, right before I finished my first year of college. My parents, faced with overwhelming evidence and the possibility of criminal charges, agreed to a payment plan. They couldn't come up with $150,000 immediately. They'd spent too much on Scarlett over the years, taken out too many loans, but they agreed to pay me back $3,000 per month until the debt was cleared, plus interest. It wasn't perfect. It meant it would take over 4 years to get everything back. But it was something. It was an acknowledgement. It was justice, or as close to justice as I was likely to get. Harold also helped me with something else, applying for financial aid now that I could prove I was financially independent from my parents. Without their income being counted, I qualified for grants and better loans, enough to transfer to a real university if I wanted. But I didn't want to stay in Connecticut anymore. I didn't want to be anywhere near my family, so I applied to schools far away, really far away. And when I got accepted to Arizona State University with a decent financial aid package, I said yes without hesitation. I told my parents via email. Short and simple, "I'm transferring to ASU in the fall. I won't be available for babysitting or family events. My lawyer will continue to collect the monthly payments. Don't contact me unless it's through him." My mother called anyway. I didn't answer. Scarlett showed up at my coffee shop. I had my manager tell her I was busy. My father sent a letter. I returned it unopened. I was done. Completely, thoroughly done. The summer before I left for Arizona, I worked as many shifts as I could and saved every penny. I sold most of my belongings, furniture, books, clothes I didn't absolutely need. I pared my life down to what would fit in my car: clothes, laptop, a few sentimental items, and my grandmother's letter, which I kept in a frame on my nightstand. The day I left was a Tuesday. Deliberately chosen because I knew my parents would be at work and couldn't stage some dramatic goodbye scene. I packed my car in the pre-dawn darkness, did one final walkthrough of my room to make sure I hadn't forgotten anything important, and got in the driver's seat. I didn't cry. I thought I might, but I didn't. I just felt light, like I was shedding a weight I'd been carrying my entire life. I drove west as the sun came up, watching Connecticut disappear in my rearview mirror, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Arizona State University was everything Northern Connecticut Community College wasn't. Big, bustling, full of energy and possibility. The campus sprawled across Tempe with palm trees and modern buildings and thousands of students from all over the world. I'd transferred in with enough credits to be classified as a sophomore. I changed my major from business administration to marketing with a minor in digital media. I moved into a small apartment off campus with a roommate I'd found through a university Facebook group, a girl named Mia who was studying engineering and kept odd hours, but was friendly and respectful. I got a new job at a local restaurant, waiting tables for better tips than I'd ever made at the coffee shop. I joined a couple of student organizations. I made friends, real friends, the kind who invited me to things and remembered my birthday and asked how I was doing. I went on dates. Nothing serious, just casual coffee or dinner with guys I met in class or through friends. It was fun and low pressure, and normal in a way my life had never been before. I went to therapy, too. Started processing everything that had happened with my family. My therapist, Dr. Chen, helped me understand that what I'd experienced was a form of emotional abuse and neglect. That it wasn't my fault, that I deserved better. It wasn't easy. There were hard days. Days when I doubted myself, wondered if maybe I had been selfish or ungrateful like they'd said. Days when I missed having a family, even a dysfunctional one. But mostly, I felt free. The monthly payments came like clockwork, deposited into my account on the first of each month. $3,000, a reminder that I'd stood up for myself and won. I didn't hear from my parents otherwise. No calls, no emails, no letters, just silence and money. Scarlett tried to reach out a few times. A Facebook message here, an Instagram comment there, always some variation of I miss you or the twins ask about you. I never responded. I'd blocked her number, and eventually she got the message. My life became about me. My goals, my interests, my future. It was selfish in the best possible way. I threw myself into my studies with an intensity I hadn't known I possessed. For the first time, I wasn't working just to survive, I was working toward something. Every good grade, every successful project, every networking connection felt like a brick I was laying in the foundation of my own life. By my junior year, I'd landed an internship with a marketing agency in Phoenix. It was unpaid, but the experience was invaluable. I learned about social media strategy, content creation, brand development. I was good at it, really good. My supervisor told me I had natural instincts for marketing, and hearing someone acknowledge that I was talented at something, felt better than any praise I'd ever received from my parents. The internship turned into a part-time paid position my senior year. By the time I graduated, they offered me a full-time job. I was 23 years old, I had a college degree, and I had a real job with benefits and a salary that would let me live like an actual adult instead of a perpetually broke student. I rented my own apartment. Nothing fancy, a one-bedroom in a decent neighborhood, but it was mine. All mine. No roommates, no family, no obligations. I furnished it slowly, carefully, choosing things I actually liked instead of accepting hand-me-downs or whatever was cheapest. I adopted a cat from a local shelter. A orange tabby with a crooked ear who'd been there for months because he was too old at 5 years. I named him Copper, and he became my first real family, the kind that was chosen, not assigned by biology. Life was good, better than good. It was mine. And then came my 25th birthday and everything went sideways again. I'd made plans with friends. Nothing elaborate, dinner at a nice restaurant, maybe drinks after. My friend group had grown over the years to include people from work, from my old student organizations, from my apartment complex. Real, genuine connections with people who knew me as Zoya, not as Scarlett's little sister or the Robertson family disappointment. But a week before my birthday, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Connecticut area code. Against my better judgment, I answered. Zoya, my mother's voice. I hadn't heard it in almost 3 years. How did you get this number? That doesn't matter. Sweetheart, we need to talk. It's been so long and I have nothing to say to you. Please just listen, we know we made mistakes. We've been doing a lot of thinking and we'd really like to see you, to try to make things right. Your father and I, we miss you. Scarlett misses you. The twins barely remember their aunt. My hand tightened on my phone. You stole from me. You forged my signature. You spent years treating me like I didn't matter. What exactly is there to make right? We want to try. Please, Zoya, give us one chance. We're planning a family vacation, a real vacation, all of us together. A week at a beach resort in Florida. We'll pay for everything. Your flight, your accommodations, everything. Please, let us show you we can be a real family. Every instinct I had screamed at me to say no, to hang up, to block this number and continue with my life. But there was a small, pathetic part of me that still wanted a family. That still remembered being a little girl who just wanted her parents to notice her, to be proud of her, to love her as much as they loved Scarlett. I'll think about it, I heard myself say. Really? Oh, Zoya, that's wonderful. I'll email you the details. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you so much. She hung up before I could change my mind. The email arrived the next day. A beach resort in Destin, Florida. 7 days, 6 nights. A villa with multiple bedrooms. Flights from Phoenix to Fort Walton Beach Airport. And attached to the email was something else, a plane ticket, already booked, already paid for. In my name, it was a trap. I knew it was a trap, but I was curious. Curious to see what they wanted. Curious to see if people could actually change, or maybe I was just lonely enough on some level to give them one more chance. I told my friends about it over drinks that weekend. Mia, my old roommate who'd become one of my closest friends, looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Zoya, no, absolutely not. These people stole from you. They treated you like garbage your entire life. This is obviously some kind of setup. I know, but nothing, don't go. Spend your birthday with us with people who actually care about you. My friend James, who worked with me at the agency, was more measured. I get wanting closure, but be careful, have an exit strategy. Don't let them manipulate you. Sarah, another friend from work, asked, "What does your gut tell you?" My gut? My gut told me this was a terrible idea. But my heart, my stupid, hopeful heart, wanted to believe that maybe somehow things could be different. "I'm going to go," I said finally. "But on my terms, I'm going to set boundaries, and if they cross them, I'm out." My friends made me promise to check in regularly, to keep my phone charged, to have a backup plan. They were protective in a way my actual family had never been, and I loved them for it. The week before the trip, my mother called again, more warm, more friendly than I'd heard her in years. She talked about how excited everyone was to see me, how the twins had grown, how Scarlett was doing so well with her lifestyle blog. She didn't mention the money they still owed me. They'd been paying faithfully for 3 years now, but still had another year and change to go. Apparently, we were just pretending that whole thing never happened. Red flag number 1. "We're all flying in on Sunday," my mother said. "Your flight gets in later in the afternoon, right? We'll already be at the villa. I'll text you the address and you can Uber from the airport." Sounds good. Oh, and Zoya? The twins are so excited to spend time with their aunt. They barely remember you, but Scarlett has been showing them pictures. They can't wait. Red flag number 2. "Mom, just to be clear, I'm not going to be the designated babysitter on this trip. I'm coming as a family member, not as free childcare." A pause. Then lightly, "Of course not, honey. We all just want to spend time together as a family. No ulterior motives, I promise." Red flag number 3. But I ignored all the red flags because I was apparently a masochist who still wanted desperately to believe that my family could love me the way I needed to be loved. Spoiler alert, they couldn't. The flight to Florida was uneventful. I spent it reading a book and trying not to think too hard about what I was flying toward. My stomach was in knots, but I told myself it was just nerves. Normal pre-family gathering nerves. The Fort Walton Beach Airport was small and crowded with tourists in flip-flops and beach cover-ups. I collected my suitcase from baggage claim and ordered an Uber. The drive to Destin took about 30 minutes. The resort was beautiful, white sand, turquoise water, luxury villas scattered along the beachfront. My Uber driver wound through palm-lined streets until we reached the address my mother had sent. The villa was gorgeous. 2 stories, painted white with blue shutters, a wraparound porch, and a direct view of the ocean. Multiple cars were parked in the driveway. I paid the driver, grabbed my suitcase, and walked up to the front door. Before I could knock, it swung open. My mother stood there, looking older than I remembered but still perfectly put together in white linen pants and a coral blouse. "Zoya," she pulled me into a hug before I could react. She smelled like the same perfume she'd always worn. "You made it, come in, come in. Everyone's out on the back deck." I followed her through the villa, taking in the expensive furnishings, the open concept layout, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the beach. This place cost a fortune. We stepped out onto a huge deck where my father, Scarlett, Marcus, and 2 small children I barely recognized were gathered around a table. "Zoya's here," my mother announced. My father stood, offering an awkward smile. "Good to see you, kiddo." Scarlett practically bounced over, looking sun-kissed and happy in a designer sundress. "Zoe, oh my God, it's been forever. You look great. Arizona's been good to you." Twins Oliver and Emma, now 7 years old, peeked out from behind their mother, curious but shy. "Hey," I said, suddenly feeling overwhelmed. "Hi, everyone." The next few minutes were a blur of small talk and catching up. What was Arizona like? How was my job? Had I been to the beach yet? The conversation stayed surface level, careful, like we were all dancing around the real issues. Finally, my mother clapped her hands together. "Okay, let me show you to your room, Zoya. Then we can have dinner." I made reservations at a wonderful seafood place down the beach. She led me upstairs to a small bedroom at the end of the hall. It was nice enough, a double bed, a dresser, a window overlooking the side yard. But I noticed immediately that it was significantly smaller than the other bedrooms I'd glimpsed. "This is perfect," I said, setting my suitcase down. "Thank you." "Of course." "Now the master is where your father and I are staying, and Scarlett and Marcus have the room next door with its own bathroom. The twins are across the hall in the room with the bunk beds, and you're here. Cozy, right?" "Right," she hesitated in the doorway. "Zoya, I just want to say, we're really glad you came. I know things have been difficult between us, but we'd like to move forward, put the past behind us, be a family again." "Mom, you can't just put the past behind us without addressing it." Her smile tightened. "Well, let's not ruin the trip with heavy conversations right off the bat, okay? Let's just enjoy each other's company. We can talk about the serious stuff later." Translation: We're never going to talk about the serious stuff, and I'm going to guilt you if you bring it up. "Sure," I said, because I was already exhausted and we'd only been here 10 minutes. She left, and I sat on the bed, wondering what the hell I'd got myself into. Dinner was at an upscale restaurant right on the beach. We had a table with an ocean view, and the food was incredible: fresh seafood, perfectly seasoned, beautifully presented. The conversation was still carefully neutral. My parents asked safe questions about Phoenix, about my apartment, about my cat. I asked safe questions about Connecticut, their jobs, the twins' school. Scarlett dominated most of the conversation, as she always had, talking about her lifestyle blog that now had almost 50,000 followers, and the sponsorship deals she was working on and the home renovations she and Marcus were planning. Marcus himself barely spoke, checking his phone periodically and excusing himself twice to take work calls. The twins were surprisingly well-behaved, coloring on their kids' menus and eating their fish sticks without complaint. It was all very normal. Pleasant even, which made me suspicious. After dinner, we walked back to the villa along the beach. The twins ran ahead, splashing in the shallow waves. My parents walked together, hand in hand. Scarlett and Marcus followed, Marcus still on his phone. I walked alone at the back of the group, and the symbolism wasn't lost on me. Back at the villa, everyone else headed inside, but I stayed on the deck, watching the moon reflected on the water. My phone buzzed. A text from Mia. "How's it going?" "They being weird yet?" I typed back. "Not yet, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm telling you, get out while you can. Come back to Phoenix and celebrate your birthday with people who actually like you." I smiled despite myself. "I'll see how tomorrow goes. If it gets bad, I'll bail. I'm holding you to that. Love you, babe. Love you too." I put my phone away and sat there a while longer, trying to enjoy the sound of the waves and not think about all the ways this trip could go wrong. The shoe dropped the next morning. I woke up early, around 7, to the sound of footsteps and voices downstairs. I got dressed and headed down to find my mother in the kitchen making coffee and my father reading a newspaper at the dining table. "Morning," my mother said brightly. "Coffee, please." She poured me a cup, and I added cream and sugar, savoring that first perfect sip. "Your father and I are going to walk on the beach this morning. Would you like to join us?" It sounded nice. Peaceful. Maybe a chance to actually talk. "Sure, I'd." "Zoya," Scarlett's voice came from the stairs. She appeared a moment later, already dressed in workout clothes. Perfect timing. "Marcus and I are going to that yoga class at the resort, and we need someone to watch Oliver and Emma. You don't mind, right? It's just for 2 hours." There it was. Less than 24 hours in, and I was already being recruited as the babysitter. Actually, I was about to go for a walk with Mom and Dad. "Oh, they can go without you, can't you, Mom?" Scarlett looked at our mother with pleading eyes. My mother hesitated, glancing between us. Then she smiled at Scarlett. "Of course we can. Zoya, honey, you don't mind helping your sister out, do you? You'll have all week to spend time with us." "I do mind, actually," I said, keeping my voice level. "I told you on the phone, Mom, I'm not here to be the babysitter." Scarlett's expression shifted from pleading to hurt. "Wow. I haven't seen you in 3 years, and the first time I ask for help, you throw it back in my face. You haven't seen me in 3 years because you were complicit in Mom and Dad stealing from me," I reminded her. "And the first time you see me, you're already asking me to watch your kids so you can go to yoga. Do you not see the problem with that?" "Zoya," my father said, his tone warning. "Don't start." "I'm not starting anything. I'm setting a boundary. I came here to spend time with the family as an equal member, not as free childcare." "It's 2 hours," Scarlett said, her voice rising. 2 hours, Zoya. I'm asking you to spend 2 hours with your nephew and niece who you've ignored for years, but I guess that's too much to ask from you." "You're twisting this," I said, feeling my own temper rise. "I didn't ignore them. I distanced myself from a family that treated me like garbage." "That's enough," my mother snapped. "Both of you." "Zoya, your sister is asking for a small favor. It's not unreasonable. You used to watch the twins all the time." "Because I was guilted into it constantly. Because every time I said no, I was told I was selfish and ungrateful. I'm done with that dynamic." Scarlett's eyes filled with tears, actual tears. "I can't believe you're being like this. I thought you came here to reconnect, to be a family again, but you're still holding grudges and being vindictive." "Vindictive? You used my stolen money to fund your lifestyle blog. I didn't know it was stolen. Mom and Dad told me you'd agreed to help me." That stopped me. I looked at my parents. "You told her I agreed?" They had the grace to look uncomfortable. "We told Scarlett that we'd reallocated some family funds to help her get started," my father said carefully. "We didn't go into details about the trust." "So you lied to her, too. You let her believe I willingly gave her my money." "This is exactly what we didn't want," my mother said, her voice tight. "We invited you here to heal, to move forward, and you're immediately dredging up the past and causing drama." I'm causing drama, I'm not the one who committed fraud. Lower your voice, my father commanded. The twins can hear you. I looked over and saw Oliver and Emma standing in the doorway to the living room, both in their pajamas, both looking scared. I took a breath, trying to calm down. I'm going for a walk, I announced. Alone. When I get back, I hope we can have an actual conversation about what happened instead of pretending everything is fine. I grabbed my phone and headed out the front door before anyone could respond. I walked down to the beach, kicking off my shoes and letting the sand and surf cool my anger. My phone buzzed almost immediately. A text from my mother? That was incredibly selfish. Scarlett is crying. You've upset the children. We bring you here, pay for everything, and this is how you act. I stared at the message, then typed back, You brought me here under false pretenses. You said you wanted to make things right, but you just want me to fall back into my old role. I'm not doing it. Her response came quickly. If you can't be civil and helpful, maybe you should leave. And there it was, the threat, the ultimatum. Same pattern as always. I called Mia. She answered on the second ring. It's been less than 24 hours. I know. What happened? I told her everything. She listened without interrupting until I finished. Come home, she said simply. Book a flight and come home. These people don't deserve another second of your time. Part of me wants to, but part of me is so angry that I don't want to give them the satisfaction of running me off. Zoe, this isn't about satisfaction or winning. This is about your mental health. They're never going to change. You know that, right? This whole trip was probably just a setup to get free babysitting for a week. She was right. Of course she was right. I'll think about it, I said. Thanks for listening. Always love you, be safe. I hung up and sat down on the sand, watching the waves roll in and out, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I could leave. I should leave. But something in me resisted. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was that stupid, persistent hope that things could be different. Maybe I just wanted to see how far they'd push before I finally pushed back. I sat there for over an hour before heading back to the villa. When I walked in, the house was quiet. Everyone had apparently gone out without me. There was a note on the kitchen counter in my mother's handwriting. Took the twins to the beach. Scarlett and Marcus went to yoga. Dad went golfing. Help yourself to anything in the fridge. We'll be back for lunch. So they'd all gone ahead with their plans, leaving me alone. Part of me was relieved. At least I didn't have to deal with more confrontation. I made myself breakfast, took a long shower, and sat on the deck reading a book I'd brought. It was peaceful. Quiet. Nice, actually. They all returned around noon, sandy and sun-tired. The twins ran up to the deck where I was sitting. Aunt Zoya, Emma said, we saw dolphins, 3 dolphins. That's amazing, I said, smiling at her. Did you take pictures? Mommy did, Oliver chimed in. And we built a huge sand castle. Despite everything, I couldn't help but warm to them. They were sweet kids. None of this was their fault. Scarlett appeared behind them, her expression cool. Kids, go wash the sand off. Lunch will be ready soon. They scampered inside, and Scarlett stood there looking at me. Look, she said finally, I don't want to fight with you all week. Can we just call a truce, for the kids' sake? I don't want to fight either, I said, but I need you to understand something. I'm not here to be your babysitter. If you want to spend time with me as your sister, I'm open to that, but I'm not going to be used. She bit her lip. I didn't realize that's how it felt. Back then, I thought you enjoyed spending time with the twins. I did enjoy spending time with them, when it was my choice, when it wasn't an expectation or obligation, when you actually appreciated it instead of just expecting it as your due. She was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry, she said, and she actually sounded like she meant it. I should have been more considerate. I should have paid you at minimum. You should have asked if I was available instead of just assuming. You should have respected when I said no. You should have seen me as a person with my own life, not just as convenient free labor. She nodded slowly. You're right, I'm sorry, really. It wasn't everything. It didn't fix the past, but it was something. Thank you, I said. Do you think we could start over? Not erase what happened, but just try to build something new? I wanted to say yes, but I also wanted to be honest. I don't know, maybe, but it's going to take time, and it's going to require you actually seeing me as an equal, not as your little sister who exists to serve you. I can try, she said. I want to try. Okay, then we'll try. She gave me a small smile and went inside. I sat there, feeling cautiously hopeful for the first time since arriving. Maybe this trip wouldn't be a complete disaster after all. That hope lasted approximately 6 more hours. At dinner that evening, at a casual beachside restaurant, my father cleared his throat and said, So, Zoya, your mother and I have been thinking. Now that you're settled in Arizona, doing well with your career, we were hoping we could discuss the payment arrangement. I set down my fork. What about it? Well, we've been paying you for 3 years now. We've paid back. He did some mental math, roughly $108,000. We were thinking perhaps we could renegotiate the terms, reduce the monthly payment amount, or settle for what we've already paid. I stared at him. You want to stop paying me back the money you stole? We're not saying stop entirely, my mother interjected. Just adjust. You're doing fine financially. You have a good job, and your father and I are approaching retirement. These payments are a strain. A strain, I repeated. Paying back money you stole from me is a strain. We didn't steal it, my father said, his voice taking on that familiar hard edge. We made a family decision, and we've been very generous in paying you back at all. We could have fought the settlement. Our lawyer advised us we had a good case. Your lawyer was lying to you to keep billing you, I said flatly. The evidence was overwhelming. You forged my signature. You committed fraud. You paid me back because the alternative was potential criminal charges. Are you recording this conversation? Scarlett asked suddenly, looking at my phone next to my plate. No, why would I be recording? Just seems suspicious that you're steering the conversation toward legal issues. I'm not steering anything. Dad brought this up. Because we're trying to have an honest conversation about our financial situation, my mother said. We've done what we could to make amends. We brought you here, all expenses paid, to try to reconnect. And you've been hostile since you arrived. I was hostile this morning because Scarlett immediately tried to use me as a babysitter. Before that, I was perfectly pleasant. You were cold, my mother corrected. Standoffish, like you were looking for things to be angry about. I looked around the table. My father's expression was set and stubborn. My mother's was hurt and defensive. Scarlett looked uncomfortable. Marcus was, predictably, staring at his phone. The twins were the only ones focused on their food, oblivious to the tension. I'm not renegotiating the payment plan, I said calmly. You owe me $150,000 plus interest. We have a legal agreement. You'll continue paying $3,000 per month until the debt is cleared. This isn't a discussion. Even though it's causing your parents financial hardship, my mother asked. You didn't care about causing me financial hardship when you stole from me. We keep going in circles, my father said, frustration evident. You won't let it go. You won't forgive, you won't move forward. Because you haven't actually apologized. You keep acting like you did me a favor by paying back money that was mine to begin with. You keep framing yourselves as the victims. You keep expecting me to just forget that you committed fraud and forged my signature and gave my money to Scarlett. Keep your voice down, my mother hissed, glancing around at nearby tables. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Right. God forbid someone overhears that the perfect Robertson family is dysfunctional. If you're so miserable here, Scarlett said quietly, why did you come? It was a fair question, one I'd been asking myself all day. Because I hoped you might actually want to make things right, I said. Because I hoped that maybe, after 3 years, you'd all have done some self-reflection and realized how badly you treated me, because I was stupid enough to think people could change. People can change, Scarlett said. I apologized to you earlier, I meant it. I know you did, and I appreciated it, but an apology isn't enough when the behavior continues. When Mom and Dad use this trip as leverage to try to get out of paying me back, when I'm constantly put in a position to defend myself for having boundaries. So, what do you want? My father asked. What would it take for you to consider us a family again? I thought about it, really thought about it. I want you to acknowledge, truly acknowledge that what you did was wrong, not a family decision, not a reallocation of funds, fraud, theft, wrong. They were silent. I want you to understand that the way you treated me my entire life, favoring Scarlett at every turn, was damaging and unfair. More silence. I want you to respect my boundaries without making me feel guilty for having them. That seems reasonable, Marcus said suddenly, looking up from his phone. Everyone turned to stare at him. He shrugged. What? It does. You guys did steal from her. And from what Scarlett's told me over the years, you did treat Zoya pretty poorly. Maybe she has a point. Marcus, Scarlett said, her tone warning. I'm just saying, if we're going to do this family healing thing, maybe we should actually acknowledge the harm instead of just expecting Zoya to get over it. I could have kissed him. This man I barely knew, who I'd always dismissed as checked out and uninterested, had just become my unexpected ally. Thank you, I said to him. He nodded. I'm a lawyer, I deal with evidence, and the evidence here is pretty clear. My father's face had turned red. I don't think we need a legal opinion on our family matters. Then maybe you shouldn't have brought up renegotiating a legal settlement at dinner, Marcus replied mildly. The table fell into uncomfortable silence. Even the twins had stopped eating, sensing the tension. Finally, my mother spoke. I think we should table this discussion. We're supposed to be having a nice family vacation, and this is ruining it. It was already ruined, I said quietly. From the moment you framed this trip as reconnecting while planning to manipulate me about the payments. From the moment Scarlett tried to dump her kids on me, this was never about healing. This was about getting what you wanted from me. I stood up, pulling out my wallet. What are you doing? My mother asked. Paying for my meal. I don't want to owe you anything. Zoya, don't be ridiculous. I'm not being ridiculous, I'm being clear. I'm done letting you hold things over my head. I left cash on the table, more than enough to cover my portion, and walked out of the restaurant. I heard footsteps behind me and turned to see Scarlett jogging to catch up. Zoya, wait. I stopped, crossing my arms. I really am sorry, she said. About everything, about how they treated you, about how I treated you, about the money, all of it. Okay? I know it's not enough, I know I can't fix the past, but I want to do better going forward. I want the twins to know their aunt. I want us to have a real relationship. Then stand up for me, I said. When Mom and Dad try to manipulate me, stand up for me. When they try to rewrite history, call them out. Show me through your actions, not just your words. She nodded. I can do that, I will do that. We'll see. She reached out like she wanted to hug me, then seemed to think better of it. Are you coming back to the villa? Eventually, I need some time alone first. Okay, see you later? Yeah, later. She walked back to the restaurant and I headed down to the beach, letting the sound of the waves calm my racing thoughts. My phone buzzed, a text from Mia. Status update, I typed back. Disaster as predicted, but I stood my ground. Proud of you. Need an extraction? I smiled. Not yet, but stay on standby. Roger that, I have my passport ready. You don't need a passport to go from Arizona to Florida. You don't know where they might take you. I'm prepared for anything. I laughed, actually laughed for the first time all day. I spent another hour on the beach before heading back to the villa. When I got there, most of the lights were off. My parents and Scarlett and Marcus had apparently gone to bed. But I could hear the TV on in the living room. I peeked in and saw the twins on the couch, watching some animated movie. They were supposed to be in bed. Hey guys, I said softly. Where's your parents? Upstairs, Emma said. They said we could watch one movie before bed. Does your mom know you're still up? Oliver shook his head. She and Daddy went to their room. They were talking loud. Fighting. They were fighting, probably about dinner. What are you watching? Finding Nemo, Emma said. Have you seen it? Long time ago. Is it good? It's the best. I hesitated, then sat down on the couch with them. Mind if I watch too? They both scooted over to make room and we sat there watching the movie together. Emma fell asleep against my shoulder halfway through. Oliver made it to the end but was rubbing his eyes. All right, bedtime, I said. Come on. I carried Emma upstairs, Oliver trailing behind me, and tucked them both into their bunk beds. Emma barely stirred. Oliver looked up at me with sleepy eyes. Aunt Zoya? Yeah, buddy. I'm glad you're here, I missed you. Something in my chest cracked. I missed you too. Are you gonna stay? For a few more days, yeah? Good. He rolled over and within minutes both kids were asleep. I stood in their doorway for a moment, watching them. They really were good kids. They deserved better than to be caught in the middle of adult dysfunction. I went to my room, changed into pajamas, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow was my actual birthday. 25 years old. A quarter century of existing in this family. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app. Started writing a list. Things I want for my 25th year. 1. Peace. 2. Authentic relationships. 3. Self-respect. 4. Freedom from guilt. 5. To stop hoping my family will change. 6. To build my own family with people who actually see me. I read over the list, then added one more item. 7. To stop being afraid to disappoint people who have always disappointed me. I set my phone aside and eventually fell asleep to the sound of the ocean. The next morning, I woke to someone knocking on my door. Zoya? Scarlett's voice. Are you awake? Yeah, come in. She opened the door, already dressed, holding a small wrapped box. Happy birthday. I'd almost forgotten what day it was. Thanks. She sat on the edge of my bed. I got you this, before the trip, before everything went sideways last night. I took the box and unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a small charm that said brave. I saw it in a boutique and thought of you, Scarlett said. Because you are brave, you stood up to all of us, you built a life for yourself, you didn't let us break you, even though we tried. I turned the bracelet over in my hands, feeling tears prick my eyes. I know I've been a terrible sister, Scarlett continued. I know an apology and a bracelet don't fix anything, but I want you to know that I see you now, really see you, and I'm sorry it took so long. Thank you, I managed. She stood. Marcus and I talked last night. We agreed we're going to pay you the remaining balance of what Mom and Dad owe you. We'll work out the details with Harold, but we want to do it. We should have done it 3 years ago when we first found out the truth." I looked up at her, shocked. "Scarlett, that's over $40,000. I know, we can afford it. And it's the right thing to do. Marcus's parents have money. They helped us buy the house in the first place. We'll ask them for a loan and pay you directly." I don't know what to say. "You don't have to say anything, just accept it. Let us do this one thing right." She left before I could respond. I sat there holding the bracelet, feeling more confused than ever. Maybe people could change. Maybe Scarlett was actually trying. Or maybe this was another manipulation, another way to make me feel obligated to them. I didn't know what to believe anymore. I put on the bracelet, though. Because whether or not Scarlett's change was genuine, the word brave felt right. I had been brave, I was being brave, and I needed the reminder. Downstairs, there was a small stack of pancakes waiting for me with a candle stuck in the top. My mother, father, Scarlett, Marcus, and the twins were all gathered around the table. "Happy birthday," they chorused. I made a wish, the same wish I'd been making for years, to be truly free, and blew out the candle. We spent the day at the beach. It was nice, surprisingly. The twins buried me in sand. My father and I had an actual conversation about my marketing work that didn't devolve into comparisons with Scarlett. My mother complimented my swimsuit. Scarlett and I built a sandcastle with Emma. It felt like a real family day, the kind I'd always wanted as a kid. That evening, they took me out for birthday dinner at a nice steakhouse. They'd even got me a cake with "Happy 25th Birthday, Zoya" written on it. For one day, I let myself believe it could work, that we could be a real family. That belief lasted until the next morning, when I woke up to find a note slipped under my door. "Zoya, Marcus and I have a couples spa day booked at 10 a.m. Would you mind watching Oliver and Emma? Just for a few hours. Thank you." XO Scarlett, not asking, telling, assuming, with a thank you pre-written because she knew I'd do it. I crumpled the note, feeling that familiar anger return. I got dressed, went downstairs, and found Scarlett in the kitchen making coffee. "No," I said. She turned. "What?" "No, I'm not watching the kids today. You have a spa day, great. Hire a babysitter. Ask Mom." "Figure it out, but I'm not doing it." "Zoya, I already booked it. We can't cancel." "Then take the kids with you. They don't allow children at the spa." "Not my problem." Her expression hardened. "I bought you a bracelet. Marcus and I are paying you $40,000, and you can't watch your nephew and niece for a few hours?" There it was, the truth. The gift, the money, all of it had strings attached. It always did with them. "So that's what this was," I said. "The apology, the bracelet, the money. All just a way to obligate me, to make me feel like I owe you." "That's not what I said. It's what you implied. You do something nice, therefore I'm obligated to do what you want. That's not how healthy relationships work, Scarlett. You're being unreasonable. It's a few hours. And yesterday was my birthday, which you all made nice. Today you're back to expecting me to be the babysitter. Do you not see the pattern? The pattern is that you're still angry and looking for reasons to stay angry." "We're trying, Zoya. We're really trying. But you won't meet us halfway. Meeting you halfway would mean sometimes you do things for me without expecting anything in return. It would mean respecting my boundaries. It would mean not leaving me notes assuming I'll watch your kids." Marcus appeared in the doorway, clearly having heard the whole thing. "Scarlett, we can reschedule the spa day." "We shouldn't have to reschedule. Zoya should help. She's family." "Family helps each other willingly," I said. "Not because they're guilt-tripped or obligated. I've helped you for years. I spent every weekend of my freshman year of college watching your kids. I gave up my social life, my study time, my sanity, because you kept asking and I kept saying yes even when I didn't want to. And you never once paid me, thanked me genuinely, or considered that I might have my own life. So no, I'm not doing it anymore. Find another babysitter." I walked out of the kitchen, grabbed my beach bag from my room, and left the villa. I spent the day by the pool at the resort, reading and swimming and determinedly not checking my phone every 5 minutes. When I finally looked at my messages around 3 p.m., there were 17 from my mother, ranging from "Where are you?" to "You're being incredibly selfish" to "You've ruined Scarlett's day." There was one from Scarlett, "Mom's watching the kids. Marcus and I went to the spa. I hope you're happy." And one from my father, "We need to talk when you get back." I almost laughed. Of course standing up for myself meant I was the villain again. I stayed out until dinner time, then returned to the villa to pack. I'd had enough. I was done trying to make this work. When I walked in, my parents were waiting in the living room, an ambush. "Sit down," my father said. "I'd rather stand." "Sit down." I sat, but only because I was tired of fighting. "Your behavior these past few days has been unacceptable," my mother began. "We brought you here as an olive branch and you've done nothing but cause trouble." I set boundaries. That's not causing trouble. You refuse to help your sister. You bring up the past constantly. You make everyone uncomfortable with your anger. My anger is justified. Your anger is exhausting, my father said. We're tired of walking on eggshells around you, tired of being treated like criminals in our own family. You committed fraud. Legally, you are criminals. That's it, my mother said, standing. I'm done. We tried. We really tried. But you're impossible, Zoya. You hold grudges. You refuse to forgive. You make everything about you. Everything has always been about Scarlett. The one time I'm trying to prioritize myself, I'm selfish. Because you are selfish, my mother shouted. You always have been, never satisfied, always wanting more attention, more money, more everything. We gave you a good life. We fed you, clothed you, sent you to school, but it was never enough for you. The words hit like physical blows, but I refused to let them see me cry. I'm leaving, I said, standing. I'll book a flight home tomorrow. Good, my father said, and when you leave, don't come back. We're done being punching bags for your resentment. I walked upstairs, locked my door, and let myself finally break down. Sobs shook my body as years of pain and rejection poured out. There was a soft knock at my door about an hour later. Go away, I called. It's Marcus. I hesitated, then opened the door. He stood there holding a glass of wine. Thought you might need this. I took it. Thanks. Can I come in? I nodded, and he sat in the desk chair while I sat on the bed. For what it's worth, he said, I think you're right about all of it. Then why don't you say something? I have, to Scarlett privately, but I'm not part of your family, not really. I can offer my opinion, but I can't change decades of dysfunction. Scarlett told me you're paying the rest of what my parents owe me. We are, it's the right thing to do. But she made it conditional, implied I owed her for it. He sighed. I told her that was wrong. She's been defensive. This trip has been hard for her. She's realizing how badly she treated you, and it's uncomfortable. People don't like seeing their own flaws reflected back at them. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No, just context. Look, Zoya, I can't fix your family. Nobody can accept them and they have to want to, but I can tell you this, you're not crazy, you're not selfish, and you're not wrong for protecting yourself. Thank you, I whispered. He stood. Get some sleep. Things might look different in the morning. But things didn't look different in the morning. If anything, they looked clearer. I booked a flight home for that afternoon. Not back to Phoenix, I didn't feel like going straight home. Instead, I booked a flight to Miami, and from Miami, a ticket to Turks and Caicos, a beautiful Caribbean island I'd been wanting to visit. If my family got a beach vacation, I'd get my own, a real one, on my terms. I packed quietly, then left my room and found my mother in the kitchen. I'm leaving today, I said. My Uber's coming in 20 minutes. She looked up from her coffee. Running away again? No, choosing myself. Same thing, it's really not. She stared at me for a long moment. I don't understand you, Zoya. I never have. You're just so difficult. I'm not difficult. I just want to be treated with basic respect. The fact that you see that as difficult says everything. We did our best. Your best wasn't good enough, and I've spent 25 years making excuses for that. I'm done. So that's it? You're just walking away from your family? You walked away from me first. When you chose Scarlett over and over. When you stole from me. When you made me feel like I was an inconvenience instead of a daughter. We never made you feel that way. You did, every single day, and the fact that you can't even acknowledge it tells me nothing will ever change. My phone buzzed. The Uber was close. Goodbye, Mom. Zoya, but I was already walking toward the door, pulling my suitcase behind me. Scarlett appeared at the top of the stairs. You're leaving? Yeah. Zoya, wait, please. Let's talk. There's nothing left to say. I'm sorry, I'm really, truly sorry for everything. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix it, and I can't keep reliving this pattern where you hurt me, apologize, then hurt me again. I need to break the cycle. Emma and Oliver came running down the stairs. Aunt Zoya, where are you going? I knelt down to their level. I have to go home, guys, but we still have 3 more days, Oliver said, his lower lip trembling. I know, but I have to go anyway. Will we see you again? Emma asked. I looked up at Scarlett, then back at the twins. Maybe someday, when you're older. I hugged them both, fighting back tears, and then stood. My father had appeared from somewhere. The whole family was now in the foyer, watching me leave. You're making a mistake, he said. No, I replied. I'm making a choice. There's a difference. I walked out the door and into the waiting Uber. As we pulled away, I looked back at the villa one last time. Saw them all standing there framed in the doorway. Then I turned forward and didn't look back again. At the airport, I turned my phone completely off. I didn't want to see the messages, the guilt trips, the attempts to change my mind. The flight to Miami was short. The flight from Miami to Providencials, Turks and Caicos, was even shorter. By evening, I was checking into a beautiful resort right on Grace Bay Beach. My room had a balcony overlooking the turquoise water. I stood there watching the sunset, breathing in the salt air, and felt something unknot in my chest. Freedom. This was freedom. I didn't turn my phone back on for 2 days. When I finally did, there were over 100 messages. I skimmed through them. From my mother, anger, hurt, accusations, eventually silence. From my father, disappointment, lectures, eventually silence. From Scarlett, apologies, pleas, explanations, eventually silence. And one message from Marcus, sent the day after I left. I respect your decision. The money will be transferred to your account within the week. Take care of yourself. True to his word, 5 days later, $42,000 appeared in my account. The remaining balance my parents had owed me, paid in full by Scarlett and Marcus. I sat on the beach with my phone in my hand, looking at the bank notification, and felt nothing. Not gratitude, not vindication. Just nothing. The money was mine. It had always been mine. Getting it back didn't fix anything. It was just one wrong partially corrected. I stayed in Turks and Caicos for 10 days. 10 glorious days of swimming, reading, eating good food, and meeting interesting people. I went snorkeling and saw sea turtles. I took a sailing trip and watched dolphins play in the boat's wake. I got a massage and a facial. I stayed up late at beach bars listening to live music. I slept in every single morning. I let myself heal. On my last night, I sat on the beach watching the stars, and I made a decision. A real one. A final one. I was done, completely done, with trying to fix my family, with hoping they'd change, with carrying the weight of their dysfunction and disappointment. I wasn't going to hate them. Hate took too much energy. I was just going to let them go, release them from the place in my heart where I'd been holding space for the family I wished I had, and I was going to build something new. A chosen family. People who saw me, valued me, loved me for who I was instead of who they wanted me to be. When I flew back to Phoenix, Mia picked me up from the airport. She took one look at my face and hugged me tight. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. "I really am." "Did you go full scorched earth?" "I went full self-preservation." "Good, that's better anyway. Come on, we're taking you to brunch. Everyone wants to hear about your tropical escape." And she did. She took me to a restaurant where James, Sarah, and a few other friends were waiting. They cheered when they saw me, and I felt tears spring to my eyes. Good tears this time. "Welcome home," Sarah said, pulling me into a hug. "We missed you." "I missed you too." We spent 3 hours at that brunch, eating too much food and laughing and sharing stories. I told them about the beach, the snorkeling, the peace I'd found. I didn't tell them much about my family. I didn't need to. They already knew enough. "I'm proud of you," James said at one point. "For choosing yourself, that takes guts." "I just got tired," I admitted. Tired of fighting for crumbs of affection. Tired of trying to be enough for people who'd already decided I wasn't. "Their loss," Mia said firmly. "You're amazing, and they're too blind to see it." I looked around the table at these people, this ragtag group of friends who'd become my real family, and I felt overwhelming gratitude. "I love you guys," I said. "Thank you for being my people." "Always," Sarah said. "We're stuck with each other now." "Good, I wouldn't want it any other way." Life settled into a new rhythm after that. Work became more demanding as I took on bigger clients and more responsibility. My boss, Carol, started talking about a potential promotion to senior account manager. I threw myself into projects with renewed energy. I got more involved in my hobbies. Took a pottery class and discovered I was terrible at it but enjoyed it anyway. Started hiking on weekends with a group I'd found through a meetup app. Adopted a second cat, a sleek black female I named Pepper, who Copper tolerated with dignified resignation. I dated casually. Nothing serious, just coffee or dinner with guys I met through friends or dating apps. I learned what I liked, what I didn't, what I was willing to compromise on, and what I wasn't. I had fun without pressure, which was a revelation, and I went to therapy. Dr. Chen and I worked through layers of family trauma, unpacking decades of being overlooked and undervalued. She helped me understand that my worth wasn't determined by my family's inability to see it, that I wasn't responsible for fixing them or making them love me properly. "You're grieving," she told me one session. "Grieving the family you deserved but never had. That's a real loss, and it's okay to mourn it." "How long does the grieving last?" I asked. "As long as it needs to. There's no timeline for healing from family wounds, but eventually you'll find that the grief takes up less space. It'll always be part of your story, but it won't be the whole story anymore." She was right. Slowly, gradually, the pain dulled from a sharp, constant ache to something softer, something I could carry without it weighing me down. I didn't hear from my family for months. Radio silence from all of them. Part of me wondered if they thought I'd come crawling back eventually, if they were waiting me out. But I didn't crawl back, I didn't reach out, I just lived my life. Then, about 6 months after I'd left Florida, I got an email from Scarlett. The subject line was simple: no pressure, just an update. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. When I finally did, I read it carefully. Hi Zoya, I'm not writing this expecting a response. I just wanted you to know some things. First, Marcus and I are in marriage counseling. The way we treat each other, the way we communicate, a lot of it isn't healthy. We're working on it. Second, I started seeing a therapist individually. We talk a lot about my relationship with you, with Mom and Dad, with the twins. I'm starting to understand how much damage was done to both of us by the way we were raised, how much I perpetuated that damage. Third, I've set some boundaries with Mom and Dad. They don't like it. They think I'm changing and being difficult. Sound familiar? But I'm holding firm because I need to, for myself and for my kids. I don't want Oliver and Emma to grow up in the same dynamic we did. I don't want them to feel what you felt. I don't want them to be what I was. I'm not asking you to forgive me or to come back into our lives. I'm just telling you that I hear you, I see what happened, and I'm trying to do better, that's all. I hope you're happy in Arizona. I hope you're living the life you deserve. Love, Scarlett. I read the email 3 times, felt something shift in my chest. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was acknowledgement, recognition that maybe Scarlett was actually trying to change, not just saying the words but doing the work. I didn't respond immediately. I saved the email and came back to it over the next few days, thinking about what I wanted to say. Finally, I wrote back, Scarlett, thank you for the update. I appreciate you sharing this with me. I'm glad you're in therapy and working on things. That takes courage. I'm not ready for regular contact yet. I need more time and space to heal. But I'm open to occasional updates like this one if you want to send them. No expectations on either side. Just honest communication when there's something worth communicating. I am happy in Arizona. I have good friends, a job I enjoy, a life that feels like mine. I hope you and your family are well. Zoya. Her response came a few hours later. That sounds perfect. Take all the time you need. Thank you for responding at all. And that was it, a small opening. Not reconciliation, not restoration of what we'd lost, but maybe the beginning of something new and different, something healthier. My parents never reached out, not once. The monthly payment stopped after Marcus paid the balance, and there was no other contact. Part of me had expected a birthday call or a holiday email, but nothing came. Dr. Chen said this was actually progress. They're respecting your boundary, even if it's not for the right reasons. Silence is better than manipulation. It doesn't feel like progress, I admitted. It feels like confirmation that they never really loved me. They love the version of you that served their needs, she corrected. The you that existed to make their lives easier and make Scarlett look good. They can't love the real you because they've never bothered to know her. That's their failure, not yours. I carried those words with me, repeated them to myself when the old doubts crept in, when I wondered if I'd made the wrong choice by walking away. Time passed. Seasons changed. I got the promotion to senior account manager, complete with a substantial raise and an office with a window. I moved to a bigger apartment in a better neighborhood. I invested some of the money Marcus had paid me, saved the rest. I went on a trip to Europe with Mia and Sarah, 2 weeks bouncing between Paris, Barcelona, and Rome, eating incredible food and seeing famous art and laughing until we couldn't breathe. I came back with 1,000 photos and even more memories. I started dating someone seriously for the first time in years. His name was Daniel. He was a graphic designer, and he was kind and funny and made me feel seen in a way I'd never experienced. We took things slow, which suited us both. No rush, no pressure, just 2 people enjoying each other's company and seeing where it went. I told him about my family early on, not everything, but enough. He listened without judgment and then said, family's complicated. The one you're born into doesn't always turn out to be the one you need. I'm glad you found people who treat you right. Me too, I said. For what it's worth, I think you're pretty incredible, and anyone who can't see that is missing out. I kissed him for that. Life wasn't perfect. I still had hard days. Days when I felt the absence of a functional family like a phantom limb. Days when I saw other people with their parents or siblings and felt a pang of jealousy mixed with grief. But mostly, I felt good. Solid. Grounded in a way I never had before. I was building a life on my own terms, surrounded by people who chose me and who I chose in return. It looked nothing like what I'd imagined as a kid, but it was better. It was real. And then, 2 years after I'd walked out of that villa in Florida, I got another email from Scarlett. This one had an attachment, a photo. I opened it and saw the twins, now 9 years old, holding a sign that read, "We miss you, Aunt Zoya." The email said, I know I said no pressure, and I mean it, but Oliver and Emma have been asking about you a lot lately. They remember you, the good parts. They want to know if you'll ever visit. I told them it was up to you, when and if you were ready. But they made me promise to ask. We're not doing big family gatherings anymore. I've limited contact with Mom and Dad to once a month supervised visits with the kids. Marcus and I are in a better place. The kids are thriving. And I'd like you to meet who we're becoming if you're willing. Again, no pressure, no expectations, just an invitation. Whenever you're ready. Love, Scarlett. I looked at the photo for a long time. Oliver and Emma's faces had lost their baby roundness, but they still had those same bright eyes. They looked happy, healthy. I showed the email to Daniel that night. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm thinking I'm scared, I admitted. Scared it's a trap. Scared it'll hurt again. Scared I'll fall back into old patterns. What else are you thinking? That maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing to see them, the kids at least, on neutral ground with clear boundaries. So set those boundaries. You're good at that now? He was right. I'd gotten very good at boundaries over the past 2 years. I knew how to protect myself while still remaining open to possibility. I wrote back to Scarlett, I'm open to a visit but with conditions. Neutral location, not your house, not Mom and Dad's house. Maybe a park or restaurant in Connecticut. Just you, Marcus, and the kids. No parents, 2 hours max. I'll come at a time that works for me, when I'm in the area for work or when I choose to visit. These are non-negotiables. If you can agree to these terms, we can set something up. Her response was immediate. Yes, all of it, yes, thank you, just name the time and place. It took me 3 months to actually plan the trip. I had a work conference in Boston in early October, so I added a weekend to the trip and told Scarlett I could meet them on Saturday afternoon at a park in Hartford, about halfway between Boston and where they lived. I was nervous on the drive down from Boston. My hands were sweaty on the steering wheel. I'd rehearsed my boundaries a dozen times with Dr. Chen, practiced what I'd say if things went sideways. But when I pulled into the parking lot and saw Scarlett, Marcus, and the twins waiting by the playground, something in me settled. They looked normal, not threatening, just a family. I got out of the car and Emma spotted me first. Aunt Zoya, she ran toward me, and before I could think about it, I was kneeling down and catching her in a hug. Oliver was right behind her, crashing into both of us. They were bigger now, heavier, but their hugs felt the same. Genuine, uncomplicated in the way only kids can be. Hi guys, I said, my voice thick. Wow, you got tall. I'm 4'3", Oliver announced proudly. And I'm 4'2", Emma added, but I'll be taller next year. No you won't, I'll still be taller, Oliver argued. Will not. Will too, I laughed, standing up with a kid attached to each hand. Scarlett approached cautiously, Marcus a few steps behind. Hi, she said. Hi, you look good, Arizona suits you. Thanks, you look good too. And she did, different somehow, less polished, more relaxed. Her hair was in a casual ponytail instead of perfectly styled. She wore jeans and a sweater instead of designer clothes. She looked real. Should we walk? Marcus suggested. The kids have been dying to show you the duck pond. We walked through the park, the twins pulling me along and chattering about school, their friends, a science project Oliver was working on, a dance recital Emma had coming up. I listened, asked questions, let myself enjoy their enthusiasm. Scarlett and Marcus walked a few paces behind, giving me space with the kids but staying close enough to supervise. At the duck pond, we sat on a bench while Oliver and Emma threw bread crumbs to the ducks, arguing about which duck was the prettiest. Oh, Scarlett said, how have you been, really? Good, I said and meant it. Really good, work's going well, I got promoted, I have great friends, I'm dating someone. That's wonderful, I'm happy for you. How about you? Better, therapy helps. We're working through a lot, the kids are doing well. I actually started working again, freelance social media consulting. It's good to have something that's mine, you know? I do know. And Mom and Dad? I raised an eyebrow, she sighed. Right, sorry, I'm not. We're not in regular contact with them anymore either. Like I said in my email, supervised visits only. They didn't take it well, but Marcus and I decided we needed to protect the kids from the same dynamics we grew up with. Good for you, that couldn't have been easy. It wasn't. It still isn't, but it's necessary. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the kids. I don't know if we can ever have what sisters should have, Scarlett said quietly. I know I broke too much. But I'd like to try to build something, even if it's different, even if it's small, if you're willing. I thought about it, really thought about it. Small is good, I said finally. Small and boundaried, occasional visits when I'm in the area, updates by email, no expectations beyond what we explicitly agree to. I can do that. And absolutely no contact with our parents. I'm not ready for that. I might never be ready for that. Understood, I won't push. Okay then. She smiled, tentative but genuine. Okay. We spent another hour at the park. When it was time to go, the twins hugged me tight. Will you come back? Emma asked. Maybe, I said honestly. We'll see. I hope you do, Oliver said. It was fun today. It was fun for me too. I hugged Scarlett briefly, shook Marcus's hand, and got in my car. As I drove away, I watched them in my rearview mirror, Scarlett and Marcus each holding a twin's hand, walking back to their car. I felt okay. Not healed completely, not fixed, but okay. Like maybe, eventually, we could figure out how to be in each other's lives without it being toxic. Like maybe the door wasn't completely closed after all, just open a crack, letting in a sliver of light. The drive back to Boston gave me time to process. I called Mia and told her everything. So what do you think? She asked when I finished. Real change or another setup? I think it might be real, but I'm proceeding carefully. I'm not diving back into anything. I'm keeping my boundaries firm. Good, I'm proud of you. You handled that like a boss. Thanks, I couldn't have done it without all the therapy and support from you guys. That's what we're here for. Now get back to Boston safely. James is organizing a game night tomorrow and you're required to attend. I laughed. Wouldn't miss it. That visit to the park became the template for my relationship with Scarlett going forward. Small, bounded interactions. Emails every few weeks. Maybe a FaceTime call with the twins once a month. Another in-person visit 6 months later when I had business in New York and could swing by Connecticut. It wasn't a traditional sister relationship. It wasn't even close. But it was something, and it didn't hurt, which was progress. My parents remained absent. Scarlett told me once that they'd asked about me, whether I'd ever come to my senses and apologize. Scarlett had told them no, I had nothing to apologize for, and they'd changed the subject. They weren't capable of self-reflection, apparently. Weren't capable of acknowledging their role in pushing me away. I made peace with that, too. Some people don't change. Some people go to their graves believing they were right all along. That was their choice, their burden to carry. Not mine. I focused on the life I was building. Daniel and I got more serious, moved in together after a year of dating. He met my chosen family and fit right in. Copper and Pepper tolerated him, which in cat terms was a ringing endorsement. Work continued to go well. I was offered a position as Director of Client Services, which came with an even bigger salary and more responsibility. I started mentoring younger employees, helping them navigate their careers, and found it incredibly fulfilling. Mia got engaged to a woman she'd been dating for 2 years, and I was honored to be her maid of honor. A real maid of honor this time, for a friend I loved, at a wedding I was actually excited about. It felt full circle in the best way. I turned 27, then 28. Each birthday, I made the same wish I'd been making for years to be truly free, and each year I felt closer to that freedom. On my 29th birthday, Daniel took me to a nice restaurant. Over dessert, he pulled out a small box. I know we said we weren't in a rush, he said. But I also know that when something's right, there's no point waiting. Zoya Robertson, you're the bravest, strongest, most genuine person I've ever met. You've built an incredible life from scratch, and I'd be honored to build the rest of mine with you. Will you marry me? I looked at the ring, simple, elegant, perfect, and then at his face, hopeful and nervous and kind. Yes, I said, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, absolutely yes. He slid the ring on my finger, and we kissed while the restaurant staff around us applauded. Later that night, curled up on our couch with Copper and Pepper purring at our feet, I sent an email to Scarlett with a photo of my ring. I'm engaged. Thought you'd want to know. His name is Daniel. He's wonderful. The wedding will be small, just close friends. I'll send details when we have them. Hope you and your family are well. Zoya. Her response came the next morning. Congratulations. He looks like a lucky guy. I'm so happy for you. Thank you for sharing this with me. I'd love to meet him sometime if you're comfortable with that. Much love, Scarlett. I showed the email to Daniel. My sister wants to meet you. Do you want her to? Yeah, I realized. I think I do, not right away, but eventually. She's part of my story, even if she's not a big part of my present, and you should know all of my story. Then we'll make it happen, when you're ready. That was the thing about Daniel. He never pushed, never pressured. He just supported whatever I needed whenever I needed it. We started planning the wedding, small ceremony in a garden venue in Phoenix. 50 people max, our closest friends, Daniel's family who'd welcomed me with open arms, and a few work colleagues. Mia as my maid of honor. James and Sarah in the wedding party. Simple, beautiful, meaningful. I debated for weeks about whether to invite Scarlett. Finally, I sent her an email. The wedding is in April. You, Marcus, and the twins are welcome to attend if you'd like. I understand if the travel is too much. No pressure either way. She responded immediately. We'll be there. Thank you for including us. I didn't invite my parents. Didn't even tell them about the engagement. Scarlett asked if she should mention it to them, and I said no. This was my day, my celebration, and I didn't want their negativity anywhere near it. The wedding day arrived in a blur of flowers and sunlight and happy chaos. The garden venue was perfect, decorated with string lights and white roses. Our friends and family filled the seats, all smiles and support. Scarlett, Marcus, and the twins were there, sitting toward the back. The twins wore matching outfits and looked adorably uncomfortable in their dress clothes. Scarlett caught my eye before the ceremony and gave me a small smile and thumbs up. I walked down the aisle to Daniel, who looked at me like I was the most precious thing in the world. We said our vows, promises to support each other, challenge each other, love each other through whatever came. Promises to build a family based on choice and respect and genuine affection. When we were pronounced husband and wife and kissed while everyone cheered, I felt something complete inside me. Not the completion that comes from another person making you whole. I'd learned I was already whole on my own. But the completion that comes from choosing to share your wholeness with someone who treasures it. At the reception during dinner, Oliver and Emma came up to my table. Aunt Zoya, Emma said shyly. Hey guys, are you having fun? Yeah, the cake is really good, Oliver said. Can we ask you something? Sure. Are you happy? Emma asked. I looked around at the reception, at my friends dancing, at Daniel talking animatedly with Mia, at the lights twinkling overhead, at the life I'd built through sheer determination and courage. Yeah, I said. I really, really am. Good, Oliver said seriously. You deserve to be happy, out of the mouths of babes. Thank you, buddy, that means a lot. They ran off to get more cake, and I sat there feeling overwhelmed with gratitude. For this day, for these people, for the journey that had brought me here. Later, Scarlett approached. Beautiful wedding, really beautiful. Thanks, I'm glad you guys came. I wouldn't have missed it. She hesitated. I know I can never make up for everything, for all the years of being a terrible sister. But I want you to know I'm proud of you, of everything you've built. You did this all on your own, and it's incredible. I wasn't completely on my own, I said, gesturing to the room full of friends. I had help from people who actually cared. Fair enough. Well, I'm proud anyway, and I hope we can keep doing this. These small moments, building something new. Me too, I said and meant it. She hugged me, brief but genuine, and then rejoined her family. Daniel found me a few minutes later. You okay? Perfect, absolutely perfect. Dance with me? We moved to the dance floor, swaying to a slow song, surrounded by the people we loved. As we danced, I caught sight of Copper and Pepper. We jokingly brought them in carriers for photos, and they were currently glaring at everyone from a table in the corner. I laughed, and Daniel asked what was funny. Just thinking about how far I've come, from the invisible daughter to this, to us, to a life I chose. Well, I'm really glad you chose this, he said, kissing my forehead, because I can't imagine my life without you. Me neither. The song ended, and another began, and we kept dancing. Around us, our friends joined in, Mia and her wife, James with his girlfriend, Sarah dancing with one of Daniel's brothers, even Scarlett and Marcus with the twins spinning in circles nearby. It wasn't perfect. Life never is. There were still hard days ahead, still moments when I'd feel the absence of the family I'd wished for. Still times when I'd wonder what it would be like to have parents who truly loved me, who'd shown up to this wedding and celebrated with genuine pride. But I had something better than the family I'd been born into. I had the family I'd chosen. The family that chose me back. The family that saw me for who I really was and loved me anyway. No, loved me because of who I was. And as I stood there in my wedding dress, surrounded by love and laughter and light, I realized I'd finally gotten what I'd been wishing for all those years. I was free. Really, truly free. Not free from my past, I carried that with me, would always carry it. But free from its power over me. Free from the need for my parents' approval. Free from the obligation to fix what they'd broken. Free from the belief that I was somehow less than. I was enough. I'd always been enough. And now I had a whole life that reflected that truth back to me every single day. The party continued into the night. We danced and ate and laughed until our faces hurt. We toasted to love and friendship and new beginnings. We took 1,000 photos, making memories I'd treasure forever. As the evening wound down and guests started leaving, Scarlett found me one last time. We're heading out. The twins are exhausted. Thanks again for coming. It meant a lot. Thank you for inviting us. And Zoya. If you ever need anything, if you ever want to talk or visit or whatever, I'm here, no expectations, just here. I appreciate that. She hugged me again, and this time I hugged back fully, letting myself feel the complicated mix of emotions: grief for what we'd lost, hope for what we might build, acceptance of what was. Take care of yourself, I said. You too, congratulations again, on everything. She left with her family, and I watched them go, then turned back to the celebration that was still going strong. Daniel appeared at my side, slipping his arm around my waist. Ready to leave soon? Soon. I just want to stay in this moment a little longer. We have our whole lives for moments like this, he said softly, and he was right. We did. A whole life stretching ahead of us, full of possibility and promise. I looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky and made one final wish, not for freedom this time, because I already had that. This time I wished for continued courage, for continued growth, for continued connection with the people who mattered, for continued belief in my own worth. And I knew, deep in my bones, that wish would come true, because I'd make it come true. The same way I'd made everything else in my life happen, through determination, through boundaries, through choosing myself over and over again. The little girl who'd grown up invisible in her own home, she was still part of me, but she wasn't all of me anymore. She was just one chapter in a much longer story, a story I was writing myself. A story with a happy ending, no, a happy continuation, because the best stories don't really end. They just keep unfolding. And mine was just getting started. Daniel and I said goodbye to our remaining guests, thanked them for coming, accepted final hugs and well wishes. We drove to the hotel where we'd spend our wedding night before leaving for our honeymoon, 2 weeks in Greece, island hopping and eating good food and being completely present with each other. In our hotel room, I stood at the window looking out at the Phoenix skyline, this city that had become home, this place where I'd rebuilt myself from the ground up. What are you thinking about? Daniel asked, coming up behind me. Everything, how far I've come, how different my life is from what I thought it would be. Better or worse? So much better, better than I ever imagined. Good, he kissed my shoulder. You deserve better than you imagined, you deserve everything. And as I stood there in my husband's arms, in the city I'd chosen, living the life I'd built, I finally, fully believed that I deserved everything. I deserved love without conditions. I deserved respect without having to beg for it. I deserved a place where I was seen, valued, treasured. And I had it. Not because my original family had finally come around and given me what I needed. They hadn't, and probably never would. But because I'd had the courage to walk away from what was hurting me and walk toward what would heal me. Because I'd learned to see my own worth even when the people who should have shown it to me refused to. Because I'd built a family of choice that was stronger and more loving than any family of obligation could ever be. Because I'd chosen myself over and over, even when it was hard, even when I was scared, even when everyone was telling me I was wrong. I'd chosen myself, and in doing so, I'd chosen freedom. I'd chosen happiness. I'd chosen life, and I would keep choosing it every single day for the rest of my life. That was my revenge, I realized. Not some elaborate scheme to make them suffer. Not some dramatic confrontation where they finally admitted they were wrong. Not even the legal battle to get my money back, though that had been necessary. No, my revenge was this: living well, living fully, building a beautiful life they had no part in, becoming someone I was proud of with or without their approval, surrounding myself with people who actually loved me, being happy in spite of everything they'd done to make me feel small. The best revenge is living well, they say, and they were right. My family had tried to make me believe I was less than, that I wasn't worthy of love or attention or resources, that I should be grateful for their scraps and never ask for more. But I'd proven them wrong. Not by fighting them, not by changing them, not by forcing them to see my worth, but by seeing it myself. And that was the most powerful revenge of all. I turned away from the window and faced my husband, this good man who saw me and loved me exactly as I was. I love you, I said. I love you too, always. Forever, and then some. We climbed into bed, exhausted from the best day of our lives, and I fell asleep wrapped in his arms, feeling safe and loved and exactly where I belonged. And when I dreamed that night, it wasn't about the family I'd lost. It was about the family I'd found, about the life I'd built, about the future stretching ahead of me, bright and boundless and mine, all mine, exactly the way it should be. The years that followed were everything I'd hoped for and more. Daniel and I built a life that felt solid and real, the kind of life I'd once thought only existed in movies or other people's families. We traveled when we could, quick weekend trips to California beaches, a longer vacation to Japan that blew both our minds, A Christmas in New York where we ice skated in Central Park and drank too much hot chocolate. Every trip felt like an adventure because we were choosing it together, no obligations or expectations weighing us down. Work continued to be fulfilling. By the time I turned 30, I'd been promoted again, this time to VP of Client Relations. It came with a corner office, a salary that made younger me's head spin, and the respect of my colleagues. I'd built a reputation in the Phoenix marketing scene as someone who was creative, reliable, and excellent with people. At a company party, my boss Carol pulled me aside and said, "You know what I love about you, Zoya? You're hungry without being ruthless. You want success but not at other people's expense. That's rare." Her words stayed with me because they felt true to who I'd become. I'd learned ambition from watching my family, but I'd learned ethics and compassion from having to rebuild myself. I wanted success, absolutely, but I wanted it to mean something beyond just winning. I started a mentorship program at work for young women in marketing, especially those who came from difficult backgrounds. I knew firsthand how much it mattered to have someone believe in you when your own family didn't. The program grew beyond anything I'd expected. Within 2 years, we had 15 mentors and 30 mentees, and we'd started getting inquiries from other companies about how to replicate our model. One of my mentees, a brilliant 22-year-old named Ashley, reminded me so much of my younger self. She was working 2 jobs while finishing her degree, had no family support, and was terrified she wouldn't make it. I saw that fear in her eyes because I'd felt it myself. "You're going to make it," I told her over coffee one day. "I know it feels impossible right now, but you're tougher than you think, and you're not alone anymore." She teared up. "Thank you. I've never had anyone believe in me like this." "Well, get used to it, because I'm not going anywhere." Watching her flourish over the next year, seeing her graduate, land a great entry-level position, start building her own life, felt like healing a wound I didn't know I still had. I couldn't go back and help younger me, but I could help her. And that mattered. My relationship with Scarlett continued in its careful, boundaried way. We emailed regularly, FaceTimed maybe once every 6 weeks, saw each other in person 2 or 3 times a year when I had business near Connecticut or when they took a rare trip west. It wasn't a close relationship, exactly. We didn't share deep secrets or call each other in crisis, but it was real, honest. We talked about surface things mostly, her kids' activities, my work projects, the books we were reading, shows we were watching. Sometimes we'd venture into slightly deeper territory, discussing therapy insights or parenting challenges or what it meant to break generational patterns. The twins grew up. Oliver developed a passion for robotics and was always showing me videos of things he'd built. Emma discovered theater and would send me clips from her school performances, her confidence on stage both impressive and a little intimidating. They were good kids, and I was glad to know them, even from a distance. Scarlett sent me an email when the twins were 12. "Oliver asked me yesterday why you don't come to family holidays. I told him the truth, that Grandma and Grandpa hurt you badly when you were young, and you chose not to have a relationship with them. He asked if I hurt you too. I said yes, I did, but that we're working on fixing that. He said, 'Good. Aunt Zoya is cool, and I'm glad she still talks to us even though we're related to Grandma and Grandpa. Thought you'd want to know.' Also, he's right, you are cool." I smiled when I read it. Kids had a way of cutting through complexity to see what mattered. My parents remained ghosts. Scarlett told me occasional things. Dad had retired, Mom was still working, but talking about retirement, they'd downsized to a smaller house. They'd aged, apparently. Dad had some health scares. Mom had developed arthritis. Normal aging things that I felt oddly detached from. Sometimes I wondered if I should feel guilty about that detachment. Dr. Chen assured me I shouldn't. "They made choices," she reminded me. "They chose not to acknowledge their behavior. They chose not to apologize or make amends beyond the legally required payments. They chose pride over relationship. You're simply respecting those choices." But they're my parents. Aren't I supposed to want to fix things? Why? They're the ones who broke things, and they've shown no interest in repairing the damage. You can't want reconciliation enough for both sides. It doesn't work that way. She was right, of course. Still, sometimes late at night, I'd wonder what it would be like if they called. If they said they were sorry, if they asked to meet the life I'd built. Would I say yes? Would I give them that chance? I honestly didn't know. And I decided that was okay. I didn't need to have an answer to a question they weren't asking. When I turned 32, Daniel and I started talking seriously about having kids. It was a conversation I'd been both wanting and dreading. Wanting because I did want children, wanted to give them the childhood I'd never had. dreading because I was terrified I'd mess it up, that I'd repeat the patterns I'd grown up with despite my best intentions. What if I'm like them? I asked Daniel one night, lying in bed, my voice small. What if I end up favoring one kid over another without meaning to? What if I damage them the way I was damaged? He took my hand, threading our fingers together. First of all, the fact that you're worried about it means you won't do it. People who repeat bad patterns don't usually spend time examining them. Second, you're not them. You've done the work, you know what it feels like to be the overlooked child. You'll be vigilant about not creating that dynamic. But what if I'm not? What if it's unconscious? Then we'll have a therapist on speed dial, and we'll catch it and correct it. Zoya, you're not going to be a perfect parent. Nobody is. But you're going to be a good one, a loving one, a present one. That's what matters. I wanted to believe him, and the truth was I mostly did. I'd worked so hard to become someone different from my parents. I'd built a life based on different values, respect, genuine connection, seeing people for who they actually were instead of who I wanted them to be. If I could do that with friends and colleagues and Daniel, surely I could do it with my own children. We decided to try. And 6 months later, I was pregnant. The pregnancy was harder than I'd expected, morning sickness that lasted well into the second trimester, exhaustion that made working full-time a challenge, anxiety that kept me up at night. But it was also beautiful. Feeling the baby move inside me, watching Daniel's face light up every time he felt a kick, imagining who this little person would become. I told Scarlett when I was 4 months along. Her response was immediate and enthusiastic. "Oh my God, congratulations, you're going to be an amazing mom, I mean it. The fact that you're already thinking about how to do it better than our parents did means you're halfway there." I appreciated that, and I appreciated that she didn't offer to fly out immediately, didn't push for involvement beyond what I offered. She respected my boundaries even in this, and that respect meant everything. I didn't tell my parents, didn't even consider it. This was my news, my joy, and I wasn't about to let their potential negativity or indifference taint it. Our daughter was born on a Tuesday morning in April, after 18 hours of labor that I'd prefer never to think about again. She was 7 pounds even, with a full head of dark hair and lungs that made her opinions very clear from the start. We named her Maya Josephine, after Daniel's grandmother who'd helped raise him. She was perfect, absolutely perfect, and terrifying. Because suddenly I was responsible for this tiny, helpless person who depended on me for everything. The first few weeks were a blur of feedings and diaper changes and sleep deprivation so profound I sometimes forgot what day it was. But there were also moments of pure, overwhelming love, holding her while she slept, watching her tiny features shift and change, seeing Daniel cradle her so gently, like she was made of glass. Mia and Sarah came over constantly those first weeks, bringing food and helping with laundry and taking turns holding Maya so I could shower or nap. James sent a massive fruit basket with a card that said, "Congrats on the adorable potato." My coworkers organized a meal train. The community we'd built showed up, and I was grateful beyond words. Scarlett sent a beautiful handmade baby blanket and a card that said, "Welcome to motherhood. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do and also the best. Call me if you need anything, even just to vent. Love you." I did call her actually about 3 weeks in when I was having a complete meltdown about whether Maya was eating enough, sleeping enough, pooping the right color. "She's fine," Scarlett said calmly. "You're fine, everything you're feeling is normal. Emma didn't sleep through the night until she was 11 months old. Oliver had colic and screamed for 4 hours every evening. You're doing great." I don't feel like I'm doing great. I feel like I'm drowning. That's also normal. The first few months are survival mode, but I promise it gets easier. And Zoya, you're already doing it better than Mom did. You know how I know? Because you're questioning yourself. Because you care about getting it right. Mom never questioned anything. She was just confident she knew best, even when she was clearly wrong. It helped hearing that, knowing that my awareness, my anxiety, my determination to do better, all of it meant something. As Maya grew from a potato into an actual person with opinions and a personality, I found myself constantly checking my behavior. Was I paying attention to her needs? Was I seeing her for who she was? Was I letting her be her own person instead of projecting my expectations onto her? It was exhausting, that level of self-awareness. But it was also necessary. When Maya was 6 months old, I went back to work part-time. We'd hired a nanny named Rosa who was kind and experienced and who Maya seemed to genuinely like. It was hard leaving her, even knowing she was in good hands. But I also knew I needed work for my own mental health, needed adult conversation and professional challenges. Carol was incredibly supportive, letting me work from home 2 days a week and adjust my hours as needed. "You're valuable to this company," she told me. "We're going to make this work for you." That flexibility, that respect for me as both a professional and a mother, it was everything my own mother had never given Scarlett. I wondered sometimes if things would have been different if Mom had worked, if she'd had something that was hers outside of us kids. Maybe she wouldn't have been so consumed with Scarlett's achievements. Maybe she would have seen me more clearly. Or maybe not. Maybe some people are just incapable of treating their children equitably, regardless of circumstances. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. I wasn't living my life in reaction to them. I was living it according to my own values. When Maya was 8 months old, Scarlett asked if she and the kids could come visit. Marcus has a conference in Phoenix, and I thought we could tag along. The twins have never been, and they'd love to meet their cousin, only if you're comfortable with it. I thought about it for a few days, discussed it with Daniel, and finally said yes. They came for a weekend. The twins, now 14, were awkward in that particular way teenagers are, all long limbs and changing voices and attempts at seeming cool. But they were sweet with Maya, gentle and interested, asking questions about babies and taking turns holding her carefully. Oliver showed me his robotics portfolio on his phone. Emma performed part of a monologue from a play she was in. Scarlett and I cooked dinner together while Marcus and Daniel talked about something sports-related in the living room. It was nice, remarkably normal, like actual family without all the toxicity I'd grown up with. On their last evening, after the kids had gone to bed in our guest room, Scarlett and I sat on the back patio with glasses of wine. "Thank you for having us," she said. "I know it was a risk letting us into your space like this." "It was, but I'm glad I did. The kids are great. You've done a good job with them." "I'm trying. God, I'm trying so hard not to repeat what Mom did. Some days I'm better at it than others, but Marcus calls me out when I start showing favoritism or when I'm not really listening to them. We have family meetings where the kids can voice complaints. We're in therapy, all of us family therapy, to work on communication. It's not perfect, but it's better. That's all anyone can do, try to be better." She looked at me, really looked at me. "I meant what I said in that email years ago. I'm proud of you, of this life you've built. Your career, your marriage, Maya, this house, your friends, you did this all yourself, and it's incredible. I had help, good people who actually showed up for me. But you chose those people, you built those relationships. That takes courage, especially after how we treated you. You could have shut down, never trusted anyone again, but you didn't. That's strength." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Thank you, that means a lot. I know I can never make up for the past, but I hope you know I see it now. I see what we did to you, what I did to you, and I'm sorry. I'll probably keep being sorry for the rest of my life. I know you are, and I've forgiven you mostly, some days more than others, but we're building something new now, and that's what matters. Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you think you'll ever reconcile with Mom and Dad?" I was quiet for a long moment thinking. Honestly, probably not. They'd have to do the work of acknowledging what they did, truly apologizing, showing real change. And I don't think they're capable of that. They're too invested in their version of reality where they were good parents and I'm just ungrateful. They ask about you sometimes. Well, Mom does. Dad mostly just pretends you don't exist, which is probably worse. What does Mom ask? If you're happy, if you're doing well, if you ever mention them, I tell her you're thriving and that no, you don't talk about them. She gets this look like she wants to say something but can't quite figure out how to frame it without admitting fault. Then she changes the subject. "That sounds about right. Do you think they regret it, losing you?" "I think they regret that I didn't just fall in line, that I actually stood up for myself and it had consequences they didn't anticipate. But do they regret their behavior, their choices? I don't think so. I think they still believe they were right." Scarlett nodded slowly. "Yeah, that tracks." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping our wine, listening to the desert night sounds. "For what it's worth," Scarlett said eventually, "I think you made the right choice, walking away, protecting yourself. Sometimes cutting ties is the healthiest thing you can do." "Thanks, that actually does help to hear. And Zoya, if you ever change your mind, if you ever want to try with them again, I'll support you. And if you never want to see them again for the rest of your life, I'll support that too. Whatever you need. That's all I've ever wanted, someone to support my choices instead of guilt-tripping me about them. Well, you've got it, you've got me, as much or as little as you want. I appreciate that, really." The weekend ended with hugs and promises to stay in touch. Oliver and Emma made me promise to send lots of photos of Maya. Marcus thanked us for our hospitality. Scarlett held me an extra beat when we hugged goodbye. "Love you, sis," she said quietly. "Love you too." And I meant it. It wasn't the unconditional, uncomplicated love you see in movies. It was messy and careful and still healing. But it was real, and it was enough. Life continued its forward march. Maya grew into a toddler, walking, then running, then never stopping moving for even a second. She was curious and stubborn and affectionate, with Daniel's easy laugh and my determination. She kept us on our toes constantly. When she was 2, we started trying for another baby. I wanted Maya to have a sibling, wanted her to grow up with that relationship I'd never really had. But I also worried, would I be able to love them equally? Would I unconsciously favor one over the other? Daniel, patient as always, reminded me, we'll check in with each other constantly. We'll be aware. We'll course correct if needed. And our kids will have something you never had, 2 parents who are actively trying to be fair and present. That's huge. Our son, Leo, was born when Maya was 3. And from the moment I held him, my fears evaporated, because I didn't love him more or less than Maya. I just loved him differently, the way each child deserves to be loved for their specific, individual self. Maya was fascinated by her baby brother, gentle and curious, always wanting to help. "My baby," she'd say proudly, patting his head softly. We made sure to give her special one-on-one time so she didn't feel replaced. Made sure she knew she was still valued, still important, even with a new baby in the house. It was conscious parenting, intentional parenting, the kind I'd never received but was determined to provide. As my kids grew, I found myself constantly making different choices than my parents had made. When Maya started showing an interest in art and Leo gravitated toward sports, I supported both equally. When Maya's preschool teacher said she was spirited, code for difficult, I didn't try to make her smaller or quieter. When Leo had trouble sharing at playgroup, I worked with him patiently instead of comparing him to other kids. I hung both kids' artwork on the fridge, attended both kids' activities, celebrated both kids' achievements without ranking them, made sure each kid got individual attention and time. It was exhausting sometimes, that level of conscious parenting. But it was also deeply healing. Every time I made a different choice than my parents had made, every time I saw my kids feeling secure and valued, I healed a little bit of my own childhood wounds. Mia commented on it once, watching me negotiate a conflict between Maya and Leo over a toy. "You're really good at this parenting thing." "I'm terrified I'm screwing it up," I admitted. "That's what makes you good at it." The people who are sure they're doing everything right are usually the ones screwing it up the most. I thought about my mother, so confident in her choices, so sure she was right to favor Scarlett. Never questioning, never examining, never considering that maybe she was causing harm. "Yeah," I said, "you might be right about that." When Maya started kindergarten, I made sure to be present, volunteered in the classroom once a month, attended every parent-teacher conference, knew her teachers' names and her friends' names. Not because I was trying to be a perfect parent, but because I wanted her to know she mattered, that I was paying attention to her life. I did the same when Leo started preschool a couple years later. Made sure both kids knew they were priorities, that their needs and interests and feelings were important to me. Did I get it right all the time? Hell no, I lost my temper sometimes. I was too tired to be present some evenings. I occasionally compared the kids to each other before catching myself. I wasn't perfect, but I was trying. Actively, consciously trying, and when I messed up I apologized to my kids. "I'm sorry I yelled. I was frustrated, but that wasn't okay. You deserve better. I'm sorry I didn't listen carefully. Tell me again, and this time I'll really pay attention." I modeled the behavior I'd never seen from my own parents: accountability, genuine apology, willingness to change, and I could see the difference it made. Maya and Leo were secure kids, confident, willing to express their feelings because they knew they'd be heard. They fought sometimes, the way siblings do, but they also genuinely liked each other, played together, looked out for each other. They had something I'd never had, an actual sibling relationship built on mutual affection instead of resentment and competition. One evening, when Maya was 7 and Leo was 4, Maya asked me about my family. "Mommy, why don't we see your mommy and daddy?" Daniel and I had known this question would come eventually. We'd prepared for it. "Well, sweetie, my mommy and daddy weren't very good at being parents. They didn't treat me nicely when I was growing up. So when I became an adult, I decided not to spend time with them anymore." "Did they put you in timeout a lot?" "Sort of. They didn't pay attention to me. They acted like my feelings didn't matter. They were mean to me in ways that hurt my heart." "That's sad." "It was, but you know what? It helped me learn how I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be a mom who paid attention to her kids, who loved them and listened to them and made sure they felt important." "You do that," Maya said, matter of fact. You're a good mom." Those simple words from my 7-year-old daughter meant more than any award or promotion ever could. "Thank you, baby. I try really hard to be. Do you think you'll ever see your mommy and daddy again?" "I don't know, maybe someday, but maybe not, and that's okay. I have lots of people who love me, Daddy, you and Leo, Aunt Mia, Aunt Sarah, Uncle James, all our friends. I don't need people who were mean to me." "That makes sense." She thought for a moment. "What about Aunt Scarlett? Is she mean to you?" "She used to be when we were younger, but she said sorry and changed how she acted. So now we're friends again, kind of, but we're still being careful with each other." "Okay, can I have a snack?" And just like that, the conversation was over, at least for now. Maya's mind had moved on to more immediate concerns like whether we had any of the good crackers left, but I knew the questions would come again as she got older. And I'd answer them honestly, appropriately, without burdening her with details she didn't need, but also without hiding the truth. My kids would grow up knowing that sometimes people, even family, hurt you, and that it was okay to protect yourself, even if it meant walking away. They'd know that family wasn't just about blood, but about who showed up for you, who treated you with respect, who loved you for who you actually were. They'd have something I'd had to learn the hard way: permission to have boundaries. Permission to choose themselves. Permission to build lives that made them happy, even if it disappointed others. When I turned 35, Daniel threw me a surprise party. He'd invited all our friends, plus Scarlett and her family who'd flown in secretly. When I walked into what I thought was going to be a quiet dinner and saw everyone there, I burst into tears. "Happy birthday," Daniel said, pulling me close. "You deserve to be celebrated." The party was perfect, full of laughter and love and people who actually cared about me. Scarlett cornered me at one point. "I can't get over how different your life is from how we grew up," she said, gesturing around the room. "All these people who showed up for you, who love you. This is what a real family looks like." "Yeah," I agreed. "It really is. I'm working on building something like this for myself and the kids. It's hard, deprogramming all the stuff Mom and Dad taught us, but I'm trying." That's all any of us can do. As I looked around that room, at Daniel laughing with James, at Maya showing Emma a drawing she'd made, at Leo being tossed in the air by Marcus, at Mia and Sarah arguing about something completely ridiculous, at all these people who'd chosen to celebrate me, I felt overwhelmingly grateful. This was my family. This was my life. And it was exactly what I'd always wanted, even when I didn't know that wanting it was allowed. The candles on my cake flickered as everyone sang. I closed my eyes to make a wish, then realized I didn't need to wish for anything. I already had everything I'd ever wished for. I opened my eyes and blew out the candles. "What did you wish for?" Maya asked. "Nothing," I said honestly. "I have everything I need right here." Years continued to pass. Maya and Leo grew older, more independent. My career reached new heights. I was offered a position as chief marketing officer for a tech startup, which I accepted. Daniel's design business took off. We moved to a bigger house with a real yard. We took family trips, national parks, beach vacations, Disney World where we took approximately 3,000 photos and spent an absurd amount of money on Mickey-shaped food. We established traditions: pancakes every Sunday, movie night every Friday, volunteer work as a family once a month. We built a life that felt solid and good and real. Scarlett and I continued our careful relationship. The twins grew into actual young adults. Oliver headed to MIT for engineering, Emma got into NYU for theater. Scarlett sent photos of drop-off day for both kids, looking proud and tearful and older than I remembered. "Where did the time go?" she texted with the photos. "Feels like yesterday they were babies." "I know," I texted back. "Maya's already in 4th grade. It goes so fast." "Any regrets?" she asked. "About your choices, about walking away from Mom and Dad." I thought about it carefully before responding. "None. I built a life I'm proud of. I'm happy. My kids are happy. That's what matters." "I'm glad. You deserve to be happy. So do you?" "I'm working on it, some days better than others." That's all any of us can do. My parents turned 70 and then 75. I knew this only because Scarlett mentioned it in passing. They never reached out to me, not for birthdays or holidays or to meet their grandchildren. Nothing. Sometimes I wondered if they thought about me, if they regretted their choices, if they looked at the empty seat at holiday dinners and felt any kind of loss. But mostly, I didn't think about them at all. They'd become strangers to me, people I used to know in another lifetime. Their absence didn't hurt anymore. It was just neutral, a fact of my life, no more emotionally charged than any other basic fact. "Is that okay?" I asked Dr. Chen in a session. I still saw her occasionally, maintenance therapy to keep myself grounded. "That I don't feel anything about them anymore?" "It's more than okay," she assured me. "It's healthy. You've processed your grief, done your healing work, and moved on. The absence of feeling isn't numbness or avoidance, it's completion. I spent so many years being angry and hurt and hoping they'd change. Now I just feel nothing. It's weird. It's freedom. The final stage of healing is indifference. When someone no longer has the power to hurt you because you've genuinely let go of expecting anything from them, you're not suppressing feelings. You've actually moved through and beyond them. That made sense. I'd climbed out of that pit of pain and grief and expectation, and now I was standing on solid ground in the sunshine. Looking back at the pit didn't hurt anymore. It was just part of my past, not my present or future. One random Tuesday when I was 37, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line said, "From your mother." I stared at it for a long time before opening it. "Dear Zoya, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. You've made it clear you don't want us in your life. But I felt compelled to reach out. Your father has been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. He's declining quickly. The doctors say he has maybe 2 years before he won't remember any of us. I thought you'd want to know. If you want to see him before it's too late, you can reach me at this email. If not, I understand, though I hope you'll reconsider. Whatever our differences, he's still your father. Love, Mom." I read it 3 times, waiting to feel something. Sadness, maybe, or guilt. Or that old familiar pull to fix things, to show up, to be the bigger person. But I didn't feel any of that. I felt, still nothing. Maybe a tiny flicker of sympathy for an old man getting sick, the kind of sympathy I'd feel for any human being in that situation, but nothing specific to him being my father. I showed the email to Daniel. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I don't know. Part of me thinks I should go, that I'll regret it if I don't, that I'm supposed to because he's my father. Should and supposed to aren't good reasons. What do you actually want?" "I don't want to go. I don't want to open that door again. I don't want my kids to meet people who might hurt them. I don't want to explain to Maya and Leah why their grandparents never wanted to know them. I don't want any of it." "Then don't go." "Is that terrible? Am I a bad person?" "No, honey, you're a person protecting herself and her family. Your father had decades to build a relationship with you. He chose not to. Him being sick doesn't erase that. It doesn't obligate you to anything. I feel like people will judge me, like I'm supposed to forgive and reconcile because he's dying. People who haven't lived your experience don't get to judge. You know what happened. You know what you survived. You get to decide what you owe him, and the answer can absolutely be nothing." I sat with it for a few days, really examined my feelings, talked to Dr. Chen about it, called Mia and Sarah for their input, even reached out to Scarlett. "What should I do?" I asked her over the phone. "I can't tell you what to do," she said. "But I can tell you this, I see Dad regularly and he's never once asked about you, never expressed regret, never said he wished things were different. So if you're hoping for some deathbed reconciliation where he apologizes and makes everything right, it's not going to happen. He's still the same person, just sicker." "That helps actually. Thank you. Whatever you decide, I'll support it. If you want to come see him, I'll be there with you. If you don't want to come, I'll never mention it again." In the end, I wrote a short response to my mother's email. "Thank you for letting me know about Dad's diagnosis. I'm sorry he's ill. However, I won't be visiting or reconnecting. I've built a good life separate from you both, and I'd like to keep it that way. I wish him comfort in his remaining time. Zoya." I sent it and immediately felt a weight lift. The decision was made. The door was firmly closed. My mother didn't respond. I didn't expect her to. 6 months later, Scarlett called to tell me Dad had passed. It was faster than the doctors predicted. He declined rapidly at the end. "I'm sorry," I said automatically. "Are you?" she asked, not accusingly, just curious. "I'm sorry you lost your father. I'm sorry for your grief. But for me, it's just a fact he died, okay." "That's fair. Do you want to come to the funeral?" "No." "Okay, Mom asked if you would." I told her probably not, but I'd pass along the message. "Tell her no thank you." "Will do." I didn't go to the funeral, didn't send flowers, didn't acknowledge it beyond that one phone call with Scarlett. Daniel asked if I was okay, and I genuinely was. I felt no grief, no regret, no second-guessing my choices. My kids asked why I seemed quiet that day, and I told them simply, "My father passed away." "Are you sad?" Maya asked, now 11 and perceptive. "Not really. He wasn't a good father to me, so I don't feel sad that he's gone, just aware that it happened." "That makes sense." And it did. It made complete sense. You don't get to be an absent, harmful parent and then expect grief and mourning when you die. Death doesn't redeem a lifetime of wrong choices. Life went on, as it always does. Maya started middle school, Leo was thriving in 3rd grade. My work continued to be fulfilling. Daniel and I celebrated 15 years of marriage with a trip to Hawaii, just the two of us, while Mia and her wife watched our kids. On that trip, lying on the beach watching the sunset, Daniel said, "You know what I love about you?" "What?" "You broke every cycle that was supposed to define you. You were raised by people who didn't value you, and you became someone who sees and values everyone around you. You were taught that love was conditional and scarce, and you built a life full of unconditional love and abundance. You were shown a terrible model of family, and you created a beautiful one. That's extraordinary." I thought about that. About the scared 20-year-old who discovered her trust fund had been stolen. About the girl who'd spent her whole childhood feeling invisible. About every moment of pain and rejection and disappointment that had brought me to this point. "I didn't do it alone," I said. "I had so much help. You, Mia, Sarah, James, Dr. Chen, Harold, so many people who showed up when my blood family wouldn't. But you let them. That's the thing people don't realize, letting people help you, letting people love you, choosing to trust again after being hurt so badly. That takes courage too." He was right. It had taken courage. Every new friendship, every vulnerability, every time I chose to believe that not everyone would treat me the way my parents had, it had all required bravery. "We did good," I said, squeezing his hand. "With our life, with our kids, with everything. We did, and we're still doing it." The Hawaiian sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. I breathed in the salt air and felt profoundly, deeply grateful for the long journey that had brought me here. When we returned home, Maya had made a welcome home banner and Leo had picked flowers from our garden and also several weeds, but the thought was what counted. They crashed into us with hugs, both talking over each other about everything that had happened while we were gone. "I missed you so much," Maya said. "Did you bring us presents?" Leo asked, ever practical. We had, of course, small things from the airport gift shop, but they received them like treasures. That night, tucking Maya into bed, she asked, "Mom, do you think you'll ever talk to your mom again?" The question surprised me. "Why do you ask?" "I don't know. I was thinking about how Grandma Robertson died and you didn't seem sad, and I wondered if you'd feel the same when your mom dies." I sat on the edge of her bed, considering how to answer. "Probably, yes. Does that bother you?" "No, I just think it's sad. Not for you, I get why you don't talk to them. But sad that they missed out on knowing you. Because you're really great, Mom. You're like the best." My throat tightened. "Thank you, sweetheart. That means everything to me. Do you ever wish they'd been better, your parents?" "Sometimes, but mostly I'm just glad I get to be better for you and Leo, that you guys get to grow up knowing you're loved and valued and important. That's what matters. We do know that, just so you know. Leo and I know you love us, even when you're tired or grumpy or have to work late." "We know," I kissed her forehead, fighting back tears. "I'm so glad. Now get some sleep, kiddo. School tomorrow." "Night, Mom. Love you." "Love you too, so much." I left her room and found Daniel in the hallway, clearly having been listening. "Our kid is pretty wise," he said. "She really is. They both are. We're doing something right." We really are. The years continued their march. Maya became a teenager, dramatic and creative and fiercely independent. Leo grew into a sweet, athletic kid with a million friends. They fought sometimes, as siblings do, but they also clearly loved each other. Watching them together, seeing them have the relationship I'd never had with Scarlett, healed something deep inside me. My career evolved. At 40, I was recruited to be CMO of a major national brand. It meant relocating to Los Angeles, which was a big decision. We talked about it as a family. "What do you guys think?" I asked Maya and Leo. "About moving to LA?" Maya, now 14, shrugged. "I guess it could be cool, better weather, beach nearby, but I'd miss my friends." Leo, 11, was more enthusiastic. "Would we live near Disneyland? Because if so, I'm in." "Not exactly near, but closer than we are now." We decided to do it. The opportunity was too good to pass up, and we'd learned by now that we could build community anywhere. Home was each other, not a specific location. The move was chaotic but exciting. We found a house in a good school district, made an effort to meet neighbors and get involved in local activities. Maya joined theater at her new school. Leo joined soccer. Daniel's design work was flexible enough to do from anywhere. And slowly, we built a new life in California. Different from Arizona, but still good. Still ours. Mia and Sarah visited often. LA was an easy flight from Phoenix. James came out for a work conference and stayed with us. Our community adjusted but didn't break. Scarlett came to visit once with just Oliver, who is now in grad school at Caltech, coincidentally just an hour away in Pasadena. We had dinner together, me, Daniel, Scarlett, Oliver, and our kids. "This is weird," Oliver said at one point, looking around the table. "Good weird, like we're actually functioning as a family." Chosen family, I corrected. We chose to work on this, to build something healthier than what we grew up with. I like it, Emma said, visiting via FaceTime from New York where she was now performing in off-Broadway shows. It's like we're rewriting the family story. Exactly, Scarlett agreed. Making it better for the next generation. I looked at my kids, at my nephew and niece, and felt hopeful. They would grow up with a different model. Not perfect, but better. They'd know that family could be healthy, that boundaries were good, that love didn't have to come with conditions and manipulation. They'd be okay. Better than okay? My mother passed away when I was 42. Scarlett called to tell me. Heart attack, sudden at 77. How do you feel? Scarlett asked. I checked in with myself, waited for grief or regret or anything. Honestly, nothing. Is that terrible? No, it's honest. She never did the work, never apologized, never tried to have a real relationship with you. You don't owe her your grief. Are you okay? I'm sad, not devastated, but sad. Our relationship was complicated too, even though I was the favored one. There's a lot of relief mixed in with the sadness, if I'm honest. Relief that I don't have to manage her expectations anymore. Relief that the twins don't have to be subjected to her subtle criticisms. Does that make me a bad person? No, it makes you human. Are you coming to the funeral? No. Okay, I figured but wanted to ask. Scarlett? Yeah. Thank you, for asking but not pushing, for understanding. Of course, you're my sister. I'm never going to pressure you about them again. That chapter's closed. And it was. With both parents gone, there was a finality to it. No more possibility of reconciliation, no more wondering if they'd ever reach out, no more what-ifs, just done. I felt lighter after that call. Like a door I didn't even realize was still slightly ajar had finally closed completely and locked. Daniel found me in our bedroom, where I'd gone after Scarlett's call. You okay? He asked. Yeah, my mom died. I heard. How are you feeling? Free, I said, and realized it was true. Finally, completely free. He held me and we stood there together in the quiet of our bedroom, and I felt nothing but peace. Life continued. Maya went to college, UCLA, staying close to home, studying film production. Leo was thriving in high school, talking about colleges on the East Coast. The house felt simultaneously too big and too small, the way houses do when kids are growing up in a way. Daniel and I started talking about what came next for us. Empty nest on the horizon, new chapters to write. We were both in our mid-40s now, established in our careers, stable in our relationship. What did we want the next phase to look like? Travel more, I said. Now that we can afford it and won't have tuition to pay soon. Start that consulting business I've been thinking about, Daniel added. Maybe write a book about building family after trauma. I'd read that book. Would you? Or are you just saying that because you're my husband? Both can be true, I laughed. We were older now, grayer, with more lines around our eyes and mouths. But we were happy, solid, still us, just evolved. On my 45th birthday, my kids threw me a surprise party. Well, Maya organized it and Leo helped. It was small, just our closest friends, Scarlett and Marcus, who'd driven down from their new place in San Diego, Oliver from Pasadena, Emma who'd flown in from New York. Speech, Mia called out after we'd eaten cake. Oh God, no, I protested. Yes, speech, everyone chorused. I stood, looking around at these faces, these people who'd become my family through choice and love and showing up. Okay, fine. When I was young, I thought family was supposed to be the people you're born to. That blood made you connected, made you obligated to each other. I spent years trying to be enough for people who'd already decided I wasn't, trying to earn love that should have been freely given. I paused, gathering my thoughts. But then I learned something important. Family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up, who sees you, who loves you for exactly who you are, who celebrates your wins and supports you through losses, who lets you set boundaries and respects them, who grows with you instead of trying to keep you small. I looked at Daniel, at my kids, at Mia and Sarah and James, at all of them. You all are my family, my real family, and I'm so grateful for every single one of you. Thank you for teaching me what love is supposed to look like. Thank you for choosing me and letting me choose you. Thank you for being my home. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Mia was openly crying. Sarah was fanning her face with her hand. Even Marcus looked emotional, which was saying something. We love you too, Maya said, standing to hug me. Thanks for being the best mom. And for breaking all the bad patterns, Leo added, joining the hug. So we don't have to. That's the goal, I said, holding my kids close. To do better, to be better, to give you what I never had. Mission accomplished, Maya said. The party continued late into the evening. Stories were shared, laughter filled the house, love was tangible in every interaction. This was what family was supposed to feel like. Safe, Warm, genuine, chosen. As I got ready for bed that night, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. 45 years old, streaks of gray in my hair. Lines earned through smiles and years. I looked happy, I looked healthy, I looked free. "What are you thinking about?" Daniel asked from the bedroom. "Just that I like who I've become, despite everything, or maybe because of everything, I like who I am." "I like who you are too, love, actually." "I know." "I'm pretty great," he laughed. "Confident, I like that." "I earned it." "You really did." I climbed into bed beside him. In this house we'd made into a home, in this life we'd built together. Tomorrow Maya would head back to campus. Leo had a soccer game in the afternoon. I had a Monday morning meeting. Life would continue its normal rhythm. But tonight, I let myself just be, just exist in this moment of complete contentment. I thought about that scared 20-year-old who discovered her trust fund was stolen. About the girl who'd felt invisible her whole life. About every moment of pain and rejection and disappointment. And I sent a message back through time to her: "You're going to make it. It's going to be hard, harder than you can imagine. But you're going to build something beautiful. You're going to find people who love you properly. You're going to become someone you're proud of. You're going to be okay. Better than okay. You're going to be happy, and you're going to be free." Daniel's breathing evened out beside me as he fell asleep. I lay there a while longer, listening to the quiet house, feeling the peace that came from knowing I'd done it. I'd survived. I'd thrived. I'd broken every pattern I was supposed to inherit. I'd won. Not by destroying my family, not by making them suffer, not by forcing some dramatic reconciliation where they finally admitted they were wrong, but by walking away, by choosing myself. By building a life so good, so full, so genuinely happy that their absence didn't leave a hole. By becoming someone who knew her worth regardless of whether they could see it. By being free. That was my revenge. That was my victory. Living well, living fully, living on my own terms. And as I finally drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the life I'd built from scratch, I felt nothing but gratitude. For the journey. For the pain that had taught me strength. For the rejection that had taught me my worth wasn't dependent on their approval. For every hard moment that had led me here. I'd started as the invisible daughter, the overlooked one, the one who wasn't enough. But I'd become Zoya Robertson, wife, mother, executive, friend, mentor. A woman who knew how to love and be loved. A woman who'd built a family from scratch. A woman who turned her wounds into wisdom. And that was everything. 3 years later, when I turned 48, something unexpected happened. I received a letter. Not an email, an actual handwritten letter, forwarded through Scarlett, who'd gotten it from the estate lawyer handling my mother's affairs. It was from my grandmother, Caroline, written years before she died, sealed with instructions to be delivered to me on my 48th birthday. My hands trembled as I opened it. "My dearest Zoya, if you're reading this, it means I've been gone for many years now and you're approaching 50. I wonder what your life looks like. I hope it's beautiful. I hope you found your way out of the darkness your parents created. I'm writing this letter because I need you to know something. I saw you. I always saw you. Even when no one else did. I saw your kindness, your creativity, your strength. I saw how hard you tried to earn love that should have been freely given, and it broke my heart. I know I left you money. I hope it helped. But more than that, I hope you learned something I took too long to understand. Your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. It's intrinsic. It's yours, and no one can take it away unless you let them. I hope you walked away from people who diminished you. I hope you built a life that makes you happy. I hope you found people who see you the way I did, as remarkable, valuable, and deeply loved. And if you didn't, if you're still trapped in their orbit, still trying to earn what should be given, then let this letter be permission. Walk away. Choose yourself. Build something better. You deserve it. I love you, sweet girl. I always did. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you more while I was alive. But I hope the money helped. I hope this letter helps. I hope you know deep in your bones that you were always enough. More than enough. You were extraordinary. Live well. Live freely. Live happily. All my love, now and always, Grandma Caroline. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Daniel found me on our back patio, the letter clutched in my hands. "Honey, what is it?" I handed him the letter. He read it silently, then sat beside me and pulled me close. "She knew," I whispered. "She saw me. She did, and she was right about everything. You did walk away. You did build something better. You did find people who see you properly. You did all of it. I wish she could see it. See what I built. See my kids, see that I made it. I think she knows. Wherever she is, I think she knows." I clutched the letter to my chest, feeling both grief for what I'd lost and gratitude for what I'd found. My grandmother had given me 2 gifts: money to help me build my life and words to validate that I'd made the right choices. I had that letter framed and hung it in my office. On hard days, I'd read it and remember that I'd been seen, even when it didn't feel like it. That someone had believed in me, that I'd proven her faith right. Life continued its forward march. Leo graduated high school and headed to Duke. Maya graduated UCLA and got a job at a production company. Scarlett's kids were adults now, Oliver working as an engineer, Emma performing on Broadway. We'd all survived. More than survived, we'd thrived. On my 50th birthday, my whole chosen family gathered to celebrate. 50 people in our backyard, ranging from longtime friends to newer ones, from coworkers to neighbors who'd become dear friends. Daniel had hired a caterer, strung lights everywhere made it magical. 50 years, Mia said, raising a glass for a toast. 50 years of Zoya, and I'm just going to say what everyone here knows. This woman is the strongest, bravest, most genuine person I've ever met. She could have let her childhood break her. Instead, she let it make her. She built a life that's a testament to what's possible when you refuse to let other people's limitations define you. To Zoya, everyone echoed. I looked around at all these faces. At Daniel, my partner in everything. At Maya and Leo, my greatest achievements. At Scarlett, who'd done the hard work of changing. At Oliver and Emma, the niece and nephew I'd gotten to know as adults. At Mia, Sarah, James, and so many others who'd become family by choice. This was my life. This was what I'd built. This was my revenge and my reward all at once. Thank you, I said, my voice thick with emotion. All of you, for seeing me, for loving me, for showing me what family is supposed to be. I wouldn't be standing here without you. Yes, you would, Daniel said quietly. You're the one who did the work, we just got to witness it. But you made the work possible. You gave me a safe place to heal. You showed me what healthy love looks like. That matters. As the party continued, I found myself thinking about that 20-year-old girl who discovered her money was stolen. About how devastated she'd been, how lost, how convinced she'd never amount to anything without her family's support. If I could go back and tell her anything, I'd tell her this: you're going to lose them. Your parents, your sister, everything you thought family meant. And it's going to hurt worse than you can imagine. But that loss, it's going to set you free, free to become who you were always meant to be, free to build something real, free to choose people who actually deserve you. The losing is just the beginning. The real story is what you build after. That night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet, I stood in my backyard looking at the stars. Daniel came out to join me. Good party? He asked. Perfect party. 50 looks good on you. It feels good, better than I ever imagined. What are you thinking about? How far I've come, how different everything is, how grateful I am. Any regrets? I thought about it carefully. About the family I'd walked away from, about the relationships I'd lost, about all the pain of getting here. No, I said finally, and meant it completely. No regrets. Everything that happened made me who I am, and I like who I am. I love who you are. I know, I'm pretty lucky that way. We stood there together in the quiet dark, 2 people who'd built a life from love and choice and determination. Behind us, the house held our sleeping kids, our home, our life. Around us, the echoes of laughter from 50 people who'd chosen to celebrate me. This was it. This was everything I'd wished for during all those years of feeling invisible. Not fame or fortune or even reconciliation with my parents. Just this, a life that was genuinely, authentically mine. People who saw me and loved me. The freedom to be exactly who I was without apology. I'd been the invisible daughter, the overlooked one. The one whose trust fund was stolen. The one who wasn't Harvard material. The one who was supposed to babysit and serve and be grateful for scraps. But I'd become something else entirely. Something they never could have imagined because they'd never bothered to really see me. I'd become free. And 50 years into this life, 25 years after walking away from everything I thought I needed, I finally understood what my grandmother had known all along. I was always enough. I was always extraordinary. I was always worthy of love and respect and all the good things life had to offer. I just had to choose to believe it, to walk away from people who couldn't see it, to build a life that reflected my actual worth instead of their limited perception. And I had. God, I had. What are you smiling about? Daniel asked. Everything, I said. Absolutely everything. Because that was the truth. Standing there at 50 with my whole beautiful chosen family around me, with my kids thriving, with my career soaring, with my grandmother's letter framed in my office reminding me I'd always been seen, I had everything that mattered. Not the family I was born to, but the family I'd built. Not the approval I'd craved, but the self-respect I'd earned. not the life they'd imagined for me, but the life I'd chosen for myself. This was my story, from invisible daughter to woman who knew her worth, from stolen trust fund to chosen family, from desperate for scraps to surrounded by abundance. This was my revenge, living well, loving deeply, and being genuinely, completely, unapologetically happy. And as I looked up at the stars, I sent one final message to that 20-year-old girl who'd felt so lost and alone. You did it. You survived. You thrived. You became someone extraordinary. You built a life worth living. And you did it all yourself with help from people who actually deserved you, yes, but driven by your own courage and determination. You won, not by destroying them, not by forcing them to acknowledge their mistakes, not by making them suffer, but by walking away, by choosing yourself, by building something so beautiful that their absence didn't leave a hole, it left space for something better. You won by being free, and that's the best revenge of all. Daniel took my hand and we walked back into our house, into our life, into everything we'd built together. The door closed behind us and I didn't look back. I never looked back again, because I'd finally learned the most important lesson. The past couldn't touch me anymore. I'd processed it, learned from it, and moved beyond it. I was no longer the girl they'd tried to make small. I was the woman I'd chosen to become, and she was magnificent.